Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Simsport Racing International YouTube channel and Facebook page and all other weird and wonderful broadcasting apps at your service. Welcome back to this evening's racing commentary for you. We're here in the sunny Norfolk coast on the east coast of the UK, and we're at the Snetterton 300 circuit for what is round number 4 of this season 7 of this GT3 championship here. It's at Simsport Racing International. Robbie Stapleford has probably already got one hand on his championship trophy to make it 2 seasons in a row. He'll be winning the major honour. However, we know in any walk of life, in any discipline of motorsport, that is not always a done thing. And if any track is going to throw him off, it's going to be the bumpy circuit that we are at this evening. My name is David Wressell. I'll be your commentator for this evening, and I'm delighted to be joined by regular now, Chris Buxton. Chris, good evening to you, sir. I know you've been to Snetterton in the real world recently, but we're going to be shaping up for a pretty good one tonight as well in the virtual world, aren't we?
Absolutely. I love this circuit. It's a real challenge when you're on the full 300 circuit. It's an absolute... some drivers are less keen on it, I'd imagine, because of the challenge it provides. You've got 2 really, really long straights where, a low slipstream, a low downforce setup would be absolutely ideal. But that centre section is so twisty that you will lose so much time in that middle section should you go with a very, very low downforce setup. So yes, 40 points clear is the Englishman ahead of the rest of the field. I mean, ironically, you go down to 5th, which is Rasmus, and he has 40 points. That shows the level of dominance that Mr. Stapleford has put on the rest of the field. In saying that, you've got Regan Mitchell that is joint on points with John Seville for 56 points, as we can see on the timings board now. 55, just 1 point behind them is Dean Riley. So there's a lot to play for behind. We'll just ignore the McLaren up front. We'll just let him do his own thing, because nothing in the world seems to be able to stop him at the moment. But even still, if, like exactly as you say, David, if there's going to be a circuit to potentially throw off the mighty McLaren, it's going to be Snetterton.
Absolutely, yeah. Bumpy as anything, and we know for a fact that Robbie's not been too heavy on the practice. Covered into this before as well. Before we move into qualifying, though, we'll have a quick look at the team standings just to see how those are shaping up as well. You'll see those in a second. They will appear. Zancho Simsport, of course, like I say, heavily represented by Robbie Stapleford so far. However, according to the practice coming up until this point, it looks like his teammate Milos Stomenkovic is going to be carrying some of that weight tonight as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the number 12 McLaren gets on tonight. Post JR Simsport, this is in one of the other McLaren teams, sitting only 5 points behind. They've had a good showing so far this season with Simsport Racing Apex. That's Kieran Vidago and Regan Mitchell sitting in behind. Of course, Regan Mitchell, as you said before, sitting 3rd in the championship, so looking for another strong showing this evening. Simsport Golf Racing, Simsport Racing just behind them. And as we carry on through, we've got Simada Racing, Bloodline Racing, SRBR, Pulse HD Simsport, and Beaver Grease Racing, the AMG team, which I know, Chris, you're a big fan of. But before we worry too much about these names, what we'll do, we'll head into qualifying, because there has been a few minutes and some lap times on the board already, and we'll see exactly how things are starting to shape up in this qualifying session. Like you said, Chris, it's not the shortest track in the world. It's still just coming up short of just under 3 miles, but it is a tight and twisty one, isn't it? So it's going to be increasingly important to make sure you've got some space on those out laps as you're going on to the hot laps, isn't it?
Exactly that. And one mistake is going to be deadly. That's the thing. It's really hard to make up time. You don't have... this is no Le Mans or Monza where a mistake is less detrimental. A mistake can really... Well, for God's sake, man! He's just inhuman, I'm certain of it. Of course, Robbie Stapleford into the 44s. Leading the way. Did we really expect anything else? There's the second of the Sancho McLarens, Milos Stomenkovic, in 3rd. So a very strong showing so far for the Zancho squad. Zlato Pavlovic in 2nd. That's a great effort there. And I was going to say in the Porsche. No, that's hell. He is in a Porsche, but he's just been knocked down by Jonathan Seville in the Ferrari. Yeah, now the Porsche might have a bit more of a bit more standing this time. Now we've seen the Porsche, a little bit lacking in certain other circuits, but here we really can utilise that. That's not how you do it. So yeah, there is Ash Knight, the second position in the Porsche class battle. You could deem that just coming out of Nelson through bomb hole. Now that's a slightly cambered right-hand circuit, right-hand turn. I want to. Whoever thought that was a good idea for a corner name, I will never understand. Coming into Murray's. Now this is a really, really tricky corner because you're trying to steer and brake for a very, very crucial exit to that corner because you're carrying that speed a long, long way. It's many laps have been nullified and ruined at that particular point. There's no improvement there from the Porsche. But yeah, a great effort there from Zlatko Pavlovic. Now in fourth position, and say just knocked down from. He's actually knocked down again. I've just realised there's another one in second. That's the Sancho McLarens that are leading the way up front. Of course they are. Stein Passport in the Denso flavoured Jaguar. So we were talking off air. I did think it was actually going to be Paul Ricard. So it was all ready for the Wild Jaguar reference that me and Mr. Proudly came up with before. It's not to be. Behind the. Is that the Get Well Michael Ferrari?
No, I think that was the Simsport Apex Predator.
Okay.
Vidago and Mitchell we were going through there. So yeah, just either shaping up for a lap or putting one in at the moment. Stein Passport is a little bit off the pace at the moment. I mean, we know, don't we, that Jaguar is not exactly the simplest car in the world to work with. It's not exactly the most forgiving car, which is probably fairly appropriate considering British engineering at the best of times. But I'm sure he'll want to extract a little bit more time out of that. Someone else who's going to want to extract a bit more time out is the man on camera now, Adam Misalovic. I've actually been chatting with him over the last week. Of course, for those of you who don't know, for those of you in the community, you'll know that Adam's been struggling with some back troubles recently. So we'll be hoping that he can see out the majority, or at least the entirety of this race. But I know how he is, and I know he'll be wanting to be quicker than he is right now because he'll be wanting to try and shift himself up the leaderboard. Doesn't manage to on that. Oh yes, he does. Sorry. Yep. He's just getting a little bit in the way of some of the Pole Simsport McLarens. I think it's Marcus Hayward coming out of the pit lane, but does improve. Gets himself up into P11. Not a bad showing, but still 1.4 off. Then again, if we look at it that way, Chris, if we take out that, dare I call him, alien at the top of the leaderboard, realistically, Adam's just under a second off pole.
Yeah, and like we always see, the times in between each car are scarily close, bar one. Kieran Vidago in the Simsport Racing Apex Ferrari, as you correctly identified earlier on. They were together. Oh, that's someone that was getting out of the way. I didn't quite see who that was. A couple of turns up on his previous lap time. Chasing. Who's he chasing?
That's Zlatko Pavlovic in head of
that is car. So. Yes, that's 512. Has he gone a bit deep into Brundle? The Ferrari getting really, really fidgety. Also, that's another very challenging pair of corners there. As again, you're braking and turning, trying to get the optimum line through Nelson, the second of that chicane complex, the right-hander. I mean, at least the run down to bomb hole, the next right-hander is not particularly long. So if you're a little slow out there, it's not too detrimental, but it could provide an overtaking opportunity. Does Kieran Vidago improve? Currently 8th. Goes up one position with a 45.660. 9 tenths off the top spot, about a tenth and a half off of who's he chasing? That's Mr. Müller, Yannick Müller, that is already ahead of him. There is Mitch Smith in the Golf flavoured Aston. It still throws me. There says Golf McLaren, but I know we've had that one a few times. Oh, bouncing over the grass, going through that's coming through Hamilton, and now heading to the right-hander of Oggies. Now, if you go wrong into Hamilton, if you go that little bit too wet, there's his teammates parked on the infield there. Get a great ringside seat for what's going on. You can go wrong Hamilton if you go a little bit too deep onto the infield. You can just skew across the track as the tail of your car just completely let go, and that can cause you a few issues. There's the chicane. Oh wow, really, really wide coming out of Nelson. I think this one is abandoned. He wasn't anywhere near the apex there. There's bomb hole as we switch to Sam Pearce in the distinctive bumblebee flavoured Ferrari. Just thought of that one. Don't know, not used that one before. We'll run with that.
It's a very striking livery, isn't it? Very nice indeed. Sam sitting at 23rd at the moment. Should be looking to gain a little bit more time. Couple of seconds off of staying past one. Miles Dixon, the only man so far with 6.5 minutes left to qualify to yet to put a lap time in. Zlatko Pavlovich coming through the final corner, went a little bit wide as he went through Murray's there, but he's half a second up, we understand, so we'll see what the time is going to be as he crosses the line. All the three ahead of him are in the pits at the moment, so Zash Knight, Stamenkovic and Stapleford does go quicker, but a 10.5 off of the current pole sitter Robbie Stapleford. Now, Chris, we looked at it when we first jumped into qualifying and we thought, oh god, he's done it again. He's gone and blown everyone out of the water. But that does put the cat amongst the pigeons. Now, we did say the Porsche would be good around here. It will lend itself to these, should we say, park-style circuits, the slightly tighter, twisty versions. It's not exactly a plethora of long straights at Snetterton. So I do think the Porsche will do quite well, as we're seeing, of course, with Pavlovich and Ash Knight sitting pretty in the top on the first two rows of the grid. Who I didn't expect, though, and again I say was Robbie Stapleford to be at the top, because that McLaren's not going to like the bumps.
No, indeed. But yeah, that 1.5 tenths, I reckon Pavlovich lost that in this very corner. We saw him go that little bit too wide on the exit of Murray's, and because you carry that speed such a long way, now the actual timing line is about there, right where that crest is where the timing line is. So you carry that quite a long way, even in qualifying, let alone in the race. So that 1.5 tenths could easily have been lost in that one tiny mistake. So I reckon that Pavlovich is on for a quicker lap here. We will see, as we see Adam Vasiljevic 1.4 off the top spot, but in a very close battle with, right behind him is Simon Wilkes in the next Ferrari. Right ahead of him is Wagner Marquez. The second of the Astons, I think, are number 93. So just a few tenths in it, as we always see. Yeah, it's a bit of a 10th up on this run for Asadovic. Now that alone won't gain him anything yet, but if he makes it 2 tenths, he will gain quite a few positions. Out of Oggies now, heading up towards, well, up on our screens at least, towards the Williams turn. That's here. Oh, and the tail of the Ferrari misbehaving itself as he's trying to put the power down. That's going to cost him on the Bentley Straight. There's meanders over to our left, his right. Oh, get over there. There you go. All right, so he wants the racing line. There's Brundle. Get into Nelson. Now, that sausage curb there is vicious. It will catapult you into Mars if you hit that one too hard. There, through the bomb hole, you can take that almost flat in these cars. Now, the long right-hander of Coram. It's a bit of a debate on how best to take Coram. Do you go wide and then cut back in to the apex of the last minute, or do you just stay very hard over to the right? I guess it's down to your driving style and the car setup you've got. Some of it is actually down into 12th now, whilst we've been going through the lap. Over the line, does he improve? Well, that was his first. He improves in time, but not position.
I'm sure he'll be looking for more time over the next 3.5 minutes. Robbie Stapleford, though, still in the pit, so I mean, he's running out of time if he does want to improve. I'd be very intrigued to see how late Pavlovich wants to leave it, if he can really put a good lap time in, see if he can kind of ghost him out and try and see if he won't do anything. Rich Smith going very wide through Murray's there as he goes onto the main straight. He's going to be putting a lap time in now. He's got another McLaren coming out in front of him. That won't impact him whatsoever. Crosses the line, doesn't improve, and same again, probably lost time going wide out of Murray's and onto the straight. Rasmus Christensen now coming through. We've got a couple of people in front of us. Chris Pinchbeck there. That's one of the Ferraris ahead of him. I think that is Stuart Mcleod. It's not Stuart Mcleod at all. Apologies. Rasmus Christensen goes a little bit quicker, goes up into 9th. As Miles Dixon, you can see there. Miles Dixon has finally put a lap time in, but not quite on the pace. Just hearing from broadcast director Steve Proudley, who has his eyes on many different people. He has mentioned the Aston Martin drivers are struggling a little bit, and that does seem to be the case, doesn't it, Chris? Because the highest man at the moment in the Aston Martin is Rich Smith, and he's nearly a second off of the current pole position time, Robbie Stapleford. So maybe not a track that's suiting the Astons very well so far, we would say.
Not entirely surprised. The Aston seems more suited to lots and lots of straight, or lots and lots of right foot. whereas Snetterton doesn't lend itself to that. It's very much a technical track. Yes, as mentioned, it does have those two long straights, being the Bentley Straight that we're now looking at, and of course the start-finish straight. But there's so much twisty bits in the middle that it undoes any advantage that the Aston or any car that is geared towards high top end will absolutely have. As we're on the bumper cam of Pinky Pinchback, he's never living that down as long as I breathe. Oh, well caught, sir. So Mrs. Pinchback, we've been informed, is watching. Thank you so much for giving up just that beautiful little nugget. We're never going to let that one go. Not a bad exit from Murray's. I think Chris may have been put off a little bit by the car ahead of him. He's going to get a fairly decent slipstream down the start-finish straight. Oh, 3,000ths of a second off his previous best. Well, I mean, consistency. We always talk about how consistency is king. My goodness, that's an absolute testament to that level of consistency. Regan Mitchell. Well, you don't expect to see Regan Mitchell, who's second or joint second in the championship, down in 18th. Well.
Not having it his way at the moment. 2.1 seconds off the pace. Going through bomb hole now in that ironically numbered 69 Ferrari, the Simsport Racing Apex team we mentioned before. Would make an interesting race for him. I know how good he is at making his way through the field. He's got this knack of being able to have a measure of patience whilst also making the move at the right time as well. It's something that I have yet to understand myself. But as he comes over the start-finish line, he's got 20 seconds left. He is going to get another lap time, and he does improve. Gains 3/10 on that lap, but only one position. Only gets ahead of Sebastian Stromanera, so still plenty to do. As we see Miles Dixon going sideways through Williams and onto the Bentley Straight. He's going to have Chris Pinchbeck all over his rear wing, which is less than ideal for either of them, because it's going to be off-putting for Dixon to have it.
Really?
That was close. Going into Brundle, into Nelson. That is cross Pinchbeck completely. You can see how much he's had to back off.
That's the thing. If Miles is on a time lap, which would indicate that he's not obliged to get out of the way. You know, that's the nature of qualifying. If you're on a time lap, you're not obliged to get out of the way. If you weren't on a time lap, then of course that makes life a little bit different. Is Mr. Stapleford on track, or did he decide to stay parked?
It looks like he's in the pits, from what I can see.
Parked. Is our second place Porsche out there? There he is.
Second, third, and fourth, all on track. Stapleford in the pits. We'll see.
Ooh,
not the best exit from Ash Knight, though, was that? That wasn't great.
No. Pavlovich was not able to improve. Stamenkovic didn't improve either. He's back in the pits. There we go. We can now see the P indicator on the tower. Can Ash Knight find that 300th? No, he's decided enough's enough. Do a bit of pit lane entrance practice, and that is qualifying. It's a familiar name on the top spot, but slightly rearranged behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. So Robbie Stapleford takes a fourth pole in a row in the Simsport Racing International GT3 Championship, something we come to expect by now. However, like you said, Chris, it does look like it's going to be a little bit closer than we might have initially expected for the Zancho Simsport car. He's joined on the front row by Zlatko Pavlovich in the 512 Porsche. And then we've got row 2 formed of Milos Stamenkovic and Ash Knight. Before we get into things, though, one thing we need to do is we need to run through exactly how this track is looking ahead of this evening's racing. So if you want to have a look with us now, we'll go through and we'll have a look at the track map for the Snetterton 300 circuit course, just under 3 miles in length, hence the name, the 300. Of course, one of 3 different modifications or ranges of tracks that we've got the Snetterton circuit. First sector, as you can see, formed of the sweeping right-hander into Montreal and then into the infield, and you've got that tight twisty middle sector up and towards the back end of the Bentley Straight, and then the final sector is that really tough and tricky and a really undulating area, isn't it, Chris? Like you say, you've got Nelson, Brundle, really difficult to get it right, and I mean realistically it's almost symmetrical in a way, because you come off the Bentley Straight, you've got the right and the left and to the right, you come out of Coram, you've got the right and to the left, and you back onto the straight again. So I think it's going to be one of those races where strategy is going to be key, which is always going to be the case, of course, in these GT3 races, because you've got that one mandatory stop. So the big question is, the $1 million question is, when do you serve it? The other thing is racecraft's going to be really important because although there's a couple of longer straights, they're not necessarily finished off by really heavy braking zones. So it's going to be interesting to see how these moves are going to get done this evening. It's going to be a very big testament of the racecraft that these guys have got behind them, I think.
Yep, 100% agree with that. Rest in peace, Tree Man. We did see the picture of the famous Tree Man, but sadly he's no longer there. That actually blew down a year or so ago. Also, Montreal is not so called anymore. It's actually called Wilson, renamed after the late Justin Wilson. FYI. Even though pretty much every track map I've ever had still refers to it as Montreal, I didn't get told off. I got corrected by a fellow commentator in the in the real field, saying it's no longer called Montreal. So there is the grid walk shot. I still just adore how these cars look. Still don't like that pink Pulse. Don't like it, but even still, the car still looks amazing. I know this is a broken record comment, and I make it every week. Every week I'm here, and I make no apology for it either. And every week my favourite one changes. I still love that Golf colour. I've always loved that Golf colour. I love it when the cars bounce like that. It means the drivers. It means the driver's readied up and they're actually ready to go. It just looks odd that the car suddenly just catapults off its own suspension there. But it's just. Wouldn't you want to do that? Wouldn't you want to, just hearing them roaring, ready to rumble, just walk down? I mean, you'd upset every single steward you would ever find, but just walking down the middle of the grid 2 minutes before green light, you'd have every official screaming at you. But, wouldn't it be worth it? Wouldn't it be good?
Oh, it would be absolutely beautiful, wouldn't it? Especially when you've got the cars that look like this on the grid as well. So let's quickly run you through the starting grid for this race. I mentioned before Robbie Stapleford getting pole position in that one, his fourth pole position of the season so far. Zlatko Pavlovic in the Porsche lines up alongside him. Zancho Simsport teammate Milos Stojankovic sits along Ash Knight on the second row. Milos could be looking for a much better showing, I think, this time. He's only contributed 5 of the 101 points that Zancho have attributed so far this season. Johnny Seville and Yannick Muller line up on row 3 with Kira Vidago and Rich Smith just behind them. And then it's another pole Simsport driver in Rasmus Christensen is joined alongside by Wagner Marquez to round out the top 10. Adam Isalovic has got Marcus Hagel for company in 11th and 12th with Simon Wilkes, Adam's teammate, sitting just behind with Dave Hedges in the number 88 Simsport Audi in 14th. Regan Mitchell did make a couple of positions at the end of qualifying. He sits in P15, so he's going to have a lot of work to do to try and continue his rise up the championship table, and he's got Pinchy alongside him in the sister Golf Simsport Aston Martin.
I've got you out too.
Stuart Mcleod and Sebastian Solera round out row 9 in 17th and 18th with Miles Dixon, Rob Jackson in rounding out the top 20. Ash Coupland and Steve Parker sit in 21st and 22nd. Stain Paspont and Sam Pearce the row after that, and then to round out the grid, who didn't make a qualifying time, is Simon Bartlett, who will be rounding out the grid. He'll be bringing up the rear of this very expensive, very powerful GT3 powered train, ready ahead of 90 minutes in this race one. Fourth round of season number 7 here at Simsport Racing International's GT3 Championship. Robbie Stapleford leading the title charge by quite some way in his second season. He is looking to retain that, of course, and said at the start, potentially with one hand on the trophy. If not before this evening, if he does continue to do what he normally does, he will have that one hand on there for sure by the end of tonight. But we'll see him now. He'll run us away, and we'll get a chance, Chris, for one last time to see them drive in some relative calm as he heads them off information lap.
Very much calm before the storm, isn't it? As they lead the way now, heading down towards Richards. It's a bit of a deceptive corner. It's not that tight. Certainly in GT3 cars, they won't be quite flat through there, especially not when the car is heavy. There is a little bit of banking in there, but it's not consistent. So that will kind of throw the cars around a little bit as we head over the crest, which upsets most camera crews heading towards Wilson. It does, because one of the camera points is actually kind of. If you were to follow the road down away from Wilson, it watches the cars go over the crest, but there's several seconds before they actually hit the hairpin. Anyway, that doesn't matter to anybody, but other than us broadcasters. Right, left-hander of Palmer. Now, this is a bit of a negative camera corner, and if you go into this too deep, you will get onto there. Now you can see there's a big runoff area there, but it's of course all grass. That is going to chuck you around like mad. Wow, goodness me, Mr. Stapleford, nearly bringing everybody to a complete halt as we head around the lap. Now we ride on board with Sam Pearce. It's difficult to see, but like I say, it's a bit of a negative camera, so the right hand side of the road slightly lower than the left. On the bumper cam now, as we nearly slam into the back of the 33 Ferrari. Now coming down into Agostini, one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit. And in my times of commentating at Snetterton, I've seen numerous cars facing the wrong way here because they've gone in way too hot and locked up the rears, and round she goes. Next up is Hamilton, which is you'll take a little bit of speed off there. You won't quite do it flat. But it goes horribly wrong if you go onto the grass. I actually saw a car go airborne off the grass on the right hand side when I was there a few months ago. Oggies, oh steady Sam. Oggies that right hander. Again, you will have to come down through the gearbox to do that one. Then Williams, it's a little bit of an awkward, clumsy corner, that one. As you want to take that one faster than realistically your tyres are going to do it, because you want to be taking all that momentum onto the Bentley Straight, as we now find ourselves. Well, there's not really much to talk about a straight, really. There's a few marshals place. Here we go. So we've now done Brundle and Nelson, and we were talking in qualifying about that, the nature of that, because you're trying to brake and turn through Brundle to get Nelson right. If it goes wrong, you'll either be bouncing off over the grass or hitting that horrendous sausage curb on the inside line. Through bomb holes, banked right-hander, which was just off the top of the camera shot there. Now through Coram, there's seemingly never-ending right-hander. Lots of people are getting very fidgety behind Robbie Stapleford wanting to get underway. And then it's one of the most difficult, in my opinion, the most difficult braking zone, which is Murray's. So you're trying to turn and slow down at the same time to maximise your exit from that turn. And now onto the start-finish straight. There's the pit lane entry, so if people aren't paying attention, that can be a little bit uncomfortable. But we will see as Robbie Stapleford is set to lead the field over the line for the first racing lap.
Absolutely, yeah. Just coming up to the start now. So we're going green any minute. 17 minutes past 4 local time in the server at the moment. So it's going to be getting a little bit later on towards the evening by the time we finish. But it's green here at Snetterton. And Robbie Stapleford covers off Zlatko Pavlovic very early doors. Ash Knight looks to cover off Stamenkovic, who's caught up in the middle of it. It's two Porsches in behind. Stamenkovic been swamped off the start there. That's not what he wanted. We've got a simple Apex Predator car off to the right hand side. That's one of Regan Mitchell or Vidago. There's a car in the wall in the background there. I think that's that of Kieran Vidago, who's just going back on track into Wilson. And there's a spin there. I think it's Marcus Hagel being caught up by Adam Misalovic. There's another one. There's Regan Mitchell trying to make his way through. That's the Audi of, I believe that's Dave Hedges. Who's dropped back, and we can see there's that Stan Paspont who's been knocked off as well. Lots of action, lots of incident in the first couple of corners here, but Robbie Stapleford is one of those, Chris, who's made it through relatively unscathed, but he has that 512 Porsche of Zlatko Pavlovic very close for company early doors.
Of course, Robbie Stapleford has made it through unscathed. Yeah, I think that was indeed the Jaguar. It was indeed that we saw facing the wrong way. That distinctive Denso livery has had a problem early on. It's an hour and a half race, of course, as it always is here at it is this season, I should say. So plenty of time to make that up. Now on to the Bentley Straight, heading down towards Brundle and Nelson. Now the straight line disadvantage that the Porsches have had previously should probably be negated by the amount of twisty bits there are in this circuit. On board with Zlatko Pavlovic of Apex Predators, the 512 Porsche, through bomb hole now. It is slightly banked, but it's an inconsistent bank, much like Rich's is the first turn, so there's still a bit of a challenge for them. Never-ending turn of Coram. Oh, he hits the grass there, and he's going to bounce off the Apex sausage. Not too hard, it will seem it does unsettle the car. Looking back from Milos Stojankovic, now in 4th position. Ash Knight had an absolutely cracking start, up into 9th place, as the McLaren is trying to break away from those behind. Now the tower is going to sort itself out with people then reappearing in positions they now are. Kieran Vidago, we saw having that moment earlier on and doing a bit of an exploratory line, and we think it was him heading off the road at Rich's, which is very easily done. It's like now people settled into their races. hopefully everybody can make. Oh, someone a little bit wide in the background there I saw, but everybody seems to have survived the opening lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Zlatko Pavlovich dropping back a little bit. Those 2 seconds off of Robbie Stapleford already as they go into the middle part of the second lap. Rasmus Christensen, he's made a couple of positions. He's sitting in behind Rich Smith, who's again been a beneficiary of positions being gained after a couple of incidents early doors here. Yannick Muller is one of those who was the real he was the worst hit by all of that. He's down in P20 at the moment. Simon Bartlett has made a couple of positions as well. He's up into P18 from 25th on the grid. And Milos Stamenkovic, who's on your screen now, is under a bit of pressure from the Ferrari of Johnny Seville. Johnny Seville's, of course, sitting joint second in the Drivers' Championship, so he'll be looking to make a move on this McLaren whenever he possibly can. It does look a little bit, and I don't want to say this is a disservice to him because he had a fantastic qualifying, but it looks like Ash Knight may well be the cork in the bottle early doors. It might only be 2 laps in, but it does look like he is dropping back rather quickly from those 2 at the front. And look at the distance between these 2 as they run through Coram and into Murray's for the second time. Milos Stamenkovic goes a little bit deep. He's going to give Jonathan Seville the chance to get alongside. That's a fantastic run out of the corner from Seville. It looks like he's going to get the move done, but they are 2 of the fastest cars in a straight line going down the main straight. It looks like those Seville has made the move before Riches onto lap number 3. So he's made the most of that mistake from the Zancho Simsport driver and gets himself up into P4.
Well read there by Jonathan Seville. That could have easily gone horribly wrong with Ferrari trying. Much like his teammate right behind, is having an argument with the Gulf-coloured Aston. That's Rasmus Christensen that's challenging the number 76 of Rich Smith. So close, but then these things tend to be in the early laps. My God, Stapleford, every single race he just astounds me. I think, he's going to be challenged this week. Nope, he just pushes the foot even further through the bulkhead and it stretches off into the distance. But we have seen in previous rounds he's not immune to a mistake, so that way may well be the only thing, the only saving grace for anybody is the hope that Robbie Stapleford makes a mistake. And I mean no disrespect at all. He's just absolutely phenomenal. But Pavlovich, he's like you're saying, David, he's maintaining the gap. Well, he's building on the gap back to his fellow Porsche of Ash Knight. And Ash is really feeling the difficulty. He's really feeling the pressure, isn't he? You're seeing him getting off the racing line, anticipating a defensive manoeuvre to those behind him. I think you're all right, and not meaning to any disservice to Ash Knight, but he does look like he's got a lot of work to do to keep the ones behind him, but he is doing so. And here is actually through Coram is where you'll see the Porsche just get that tiny bit of distance, and that's just the cornering efficiency of the Porsche just really coming to the fore there. Now it gives it a little bit of distance between himself and his chasing cars. Now he can't get any slipstream off of Pavlovich. Ash is too far back, but it's enough that everybody else behind him is either they're just kind of staying there and they're maybe saving a little bit of fuel, which I doubt, or it's just that the gap is just a little bit too big for them to overhaul.
Absolutely, yeah. It is an interesting one. It's difficult because, like you say, the time where the Ferrari and the McLaren are going to be quicker than the Porsche is on that back straight and it's on the main straight zone. It's just not quite long enough. So you kind of have to bank on potentially a mistake to make the move. As they go into Agostini, nearly are coming together between Stamenkovic and Seville there. Johnny just went a little bit deep into the hairpin and just gave Milos the chance as Ash Knight goes off there. That is unfortunate from the Porsche driver. It looked like he lost it all upon his own. That is an absolute shame. Really, really good display from the number 9 driver so far this evening. Unfortunately, just seemed to maybe catch a bit of grass on the entry into Hamilton and spun it around. Regan Mitchell facing the wrong way as well. Hopefully, we'll find out what happened there. But it's not a good run so far for the man sitting P3 in the championship. He is surely going to drop down the leaderboard come the end of this evening. Of course, one thing we'll have to mention, based on the start of this race, is that all race results are provisional, subsequent to any inquiries these guys have to make after the race. Sam Pearce is in the pits. I can see at the bottom of the timing chart. We just saw Adam Misanovic going a little bit wide coming out of Nelson, so he's going on a bit of an exploratory journey as well. Steve Parker, Simon Bartlett and Miles Dixon have all pitted as well, as Robbie Stapleford goes and puts in the fastest lap of the race. Chris Pinchbeck is looking to make a move past Kieran Vidago, so it's all going upside down for the Simsport Racing Apex team. Regan Mitchell, we just saw facing the wrong way, and Kieran Vidago losing the position to Pinchbeck, and now under pressure Chris from Wagner Marquez in the SRBR team Aston Martin car behind him.
Say that after a few drinks, as we see him nail a flat braking board as Kieran's gone too deep, as has the Audi of Dave Hedges. That's a shame. Dave was doing really well. Whoops, that's someone else that's gone off. I can't see who that's gone for a bit of a wander. I wonder if that was Ash Coupland that's gone for a bit of a wander up there at Wilson. Ooh, getting racy, coming down into Agostini again. Kieran Vidago is keeping that ever-present Aston of Marquez still behind him. But wow, that was quite a late defensive move in fairness, but it was successful from Kieran Vidago. What happened to Regan Mitchell?
Yeah, what happened to him indeed? Coming out of Agostini in towards Hamilton, does he do that age-old thing we've seen a few people do so far? Just goes a little bit wide. Doesn't quite.
That's Ash Knight.
That's Ash Knight, yeah, just fresh off spinning himself around. Yeah, sensibly, I would say, was waiting for a chance to get back on. Regan Mitchell a little bit too wide, and as a result, you saw there, goes into the front of the Porsche. More interesting to see if there's too much damage on either of those cars.
Bit of a shame. But oh dear. There would have been yellow flags down there, so maybe you shouldn't have been pushing quite that hard. But either way, well, just a reminder, yeah, it's him again that's leading the way. Robbie Stapleford just unchallenged up front. Another fastest lap, as you saw at the top of the screen there. Now 8 seconds. I wonder if Pavlovich has made a few mistakes there. Oh, Stuart Mcleod on the back of de Tollenaire, then challenging for 13th position. Oh, that is close. That is as close as it looks. They were absolutely pixels apart there. Ooh, steady. He manages to wrestle that one round. Yannick Müller right behind them in the Audi. Oh, lovely three-way fight there for what is for 13th position. And we're only 10 minutes into the race. Long way to go. But these guys, how they tend to do, they don't see a lot of kind of waiting and letting the laps count down. Not generally speaking. We just see them go absolutely hell for leather where they can get an opportunity to. We have lost a few, sadly, since the start. I think it's Miles Dixon. I saw his name stationary at the bottom of the list. I think we have lost him. So we have had a few casualties of the race already. But even still, 22 cars, I think, are still circulating and still ready to give us plenty of action here at Snetterton.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sam Pearce is one of those as well. I've just had a quick look. She unfortunately had a technical issue. Looks like this. Unfortunately, her screen disconnected on lap number 2. Hopefully, she didn't pick up anyone in the melee that followed that. But unfortunate to see that she's had to drop out. I think we've also, like you say there, Chris, we've lost Ash Knight. So that damage between the coming together between him and Regan Mitchell potentially terminal. Unfortunately for him, let's say really good start to the race, and unfortunate to have lost it going through Hamilton on lap number 3. Rasmus Christensen, you can see on your screen now, he's trying to turn up the wick on Rich Smith. Someone else who's turning the wick up is Jonathan Seville. You can see how much closer he is to Zlatko Pavlovich. Pavlovich hasn't had a very quick last few laps. He's only done a 1:47.4. Now that was 0.4 of a second slower than Johnny Seville and 0.5 of a second slower than Stamenkovic behind. So he's not quite got the pace that he had in qualifying. It's not quite transpired into the race for him, which is a bit of a shame because he's obviously having a bit of a struggle out there. But we'll see if he can start to really kind of get wring the neck out of that Porsche once more and see if he can get a bit more pace out of it. At the moment, though, struggling to hold off the advances of the number 97 Ferrari, who will be at this point in time quite comfortably taking second place in the championship, courtesy of Regan Mitchell being all the way down currently in 18th place. Unfortunately for him, of course, coming together with Ash Knight a few laps ago.
Indeed. And there is Milos Stamenkovic on the back of Johnny Seville, and there is Pavlovich. It's almost like Pavlovich has picked up damage somewhere, which is possible. You can pick up damage off of circuit furniture or the dreaded aprons. Oh, not again! Kieran Vidago again has come off the road. Who's that that's bouncing?
Is that Wagner Marquez, I think?
I think you may be right. That is the safer way, is to basically cut out Oggies. It's the safest way of rejoining because the racing line is not that close to the to that side of the track. So they weren't trying to cut a corner. That's actually the safer way of rejoining. As we jump back to the second of the Zancho cars of Milos Stavenkovic, still trying to hound Jonathan Seville, who's gone a bit deep on the exit of Murray's. Rich Smith and Rasmus Christensen still behind them, having their own argument, keeping up, just about hanging on to the slipstream of this particular pack. Here we go again. It's a Porsche under pressure, isn't it? It's Pavlovic this time that is really feeling the heat. It was Ash Knight who we sadly lost from this race now, and now Pavlovic seems really 47.3. Was Pavlovic's last lap, so something has certainly happened to that Porsche, or that early pace we saw from the 512, because he was only 1.5 tenths off of Robbie Stapleford's qualifying time. So that's a shame. That pace seems to have disappeared somewhere, unless he's trying to do one less stop than everybody else. Now, this is something we kind of surmise about. We don't know what strategies the drivers run. It's kind of, we have to kind of get it as they go. What happened to Kieran Vidago? It's dreaded. Hamilton's like, oh, he hit that apex too hard. Randy went, oh, that was unlucky.
Hold the brakes, man.
Yeah, that was, well, I mean, he was doing his best to bring that one to a halt, but sadly, that was just very wrong place, wrong time for, who was that came through? I forgot.
Marquez, wasn't it?
Yeah, Magna Marquez.
It was very much a 50-50 for him, wasn't it? Do I go left or right? He could have gone left, he'd have been fine. He went right, and he obviously got caught up by a stricken Ferrari in the form of Kieran Vidago. Very disappointing. Marquez actually in the pits at the moment. Remains to be seen whether he'll actually return. Obviously, he had a very big shunt there. He was caught and went pretty much head first into the wall. Fortunately for him, he'll be okay. But may not be quite as such. You see Chris Pinchbeck sitting 8th on the time chart, but he's actually up into P7, I believe. I think that'll shake itself out in a second. Yeah, you can just see him in the background there. He's got ahead of Adam Misanovic. That's 9 positions that Chris has gained since the start of this race. I know Jean's watching on, so I know she'll be very pleased with Pinchy's efforts, and he's really pulling his finger out this evening. He's doing a really, really good job. Not too far behind these guys, and if they continue to fight and continue to kind of battle the way they are, they will close up to this. He will close up to that kind of gaggle of cars pretty quickly. Let's have a quick look at these Sept times these timings comparisons between Robbie Stapleford in first and Zlatko Pavlovic in second. He's at least, Chris, a second quicker a lap at the moment. That is imperious pace from the reigning champion, isn't it? He looks untouchable at the moment.
Don't we say that every time? But what's scary is that he's now in traffic. So he's defending from traffic, I should say. So there is an argument as to why. But that gap, the actual amount of time that gap is increasing by is getting bigger. So it was a second on lap 6, it was 1.2 on lap 7, it was 1.4 on lap 8. Oh my god. So it's probably a mixture of Stapleford getting quicker and Pavlovic now having to defend, as we look at Yannick Miller of Simsport Racing on the back of Titolo. Now the Ferrari. The Ferrari's exit from Williams didn't look that bad, but I think Miller had an absolutely storming run through Williams onto the Bentley Straight. Again, the Audi should actually do quite well in that twisty section. So, which is half of section 1. There's that curb. Now, bearing in mind he hit that at really, really low speed. If you get that wrong, as well as in the background there, that's Stuart Mcleod going a tad deep on the exit of Nelson. If you hit that apex sausage with any pace, like I say, you're being shot into space. As we see Jonathan Seville still keeping the pressure on Pavlovic. That's for second position, 12 seconds now behind race leader Robbie Stapleford, the only man consistently into the 46s. Now, that was a 47.0 from Pavlovic. That's a bit more like it. So he's really struggling to kind of keep the pace he wants to keep up whilst defending from everybody else. But that's a bit more like it, 47.0. And of course, right behind him, Jonathan Seville is of course a few hundreds slower because he's caught up in this train. There is Rasmus Christensen, now very much involved in this train. So this is a battle for second position. And Chris Pinchbeck having a brilliant race. There he is in the background, having gone past Adam Misanovic. What is he? He's not that far behind. He's about 4 seconds behind this, 4.5 seconds behind this battle. There's nothing to say that if he has some good laps for a while, he won't be involved in this battle before long.
Yeah, absolutely. He's certainly going to close up if they do continue. They're not necessarily battling a huge amount at the moment, but following a car like they are is going to slow them down a small amount. Whereas, like I say, Chris has got a little bit of clear air ahead of him. He's just over 4 seconds, like you say, behind at the moment. That looks like that gap is going to continue to close. Last time around, he was a little bit slower, but he did obviously have a bit of an attempt on an overtake of Misano before, so that might have slowed him down. As Jonathan Seville's very, very close, going through Corrin behind Zlatko Pavlovic. He's getting as close as he possibly can, going into Murray's on lap number 11. Lap number 11 we are on now. As he just comes out again, just doesn't quite get the exit that he wants. And needs to effectively just sit behind him for a little bit longer. Unfortunately, you can see there's the confirmation of the timing of the time differences between Christensen and Pinchbeck. Chris is slightly slower at the moment, but like I say, any form of battle in between these guys and he will close up to them very, very quickly indeed. And he'll probably, Chris, bring Adam Misalovic and Marcus Hagel along for the ride as well.
Could well be, but he's already got 1.3 seconds between yourself and Adam Misalovic, so you might actually leave them behind. And fair play to him, because again, that Aston, I don't think I'd say he's not well suited. The top ones are 5th and 7th at the moment. We're down to 20 now, as Wagner Marquez has disconnected. Oh, that's Ash Coupland having an argument with Sam McLeod up there at Williams with Kieran Vidago. Right behind us, Jonathan Seville making an argument into Oggies. Oh, it's great if you can do it, but he's going to be on the outside for the next 2 turns. And Stamenkovic is looking to try and get involved as well, all the way through Williams, still side by side. The Ferrari getting a bit squiggly on the exit of Williams onto the Bentley Straight. I think he's managed to do it, and there goes the McLaren in the slipstream of the Ferrari now to try and push the Porsche down 2 positions. And I think they're going to do it if the Sancho. Oh, wow, big move there from Smith, I think it was. Oh, my goodness, how's this shaking out? The Porsche is actually is right behind Jonathan Seville. So after all that, oh, my goodness, Pavlovic was down to 4th briefly as the timing updated. They do so every sector. So he does manage to get back ahead of Stamenkovic. There is Rasmus Christensen on the back of the Sancho McLaren again. Oh, wow, that got rather dicey for a while, but now Jonathan Seville in 2nd. You could say has got a real opportunity here to try and dance off away from the Porsche, has already got 7/10 between himself and Pavlovic. So I think Pavlovic is really struggling. Or, like I say, he's doing the conservative game. If he is, then, well, good luck, because I'm not sure it's paying off for you at the moment. We'll see. So, we're a long way away from any kind of pit stop phase at the moment. Lovely helicam shot here, and there you can see what 7/10 looks like. He's gone out of the shot now with Jonathan Seville. That's Stamenkovic under pressure from Christensen. You can do an outside at Agostini, but you need a bit of luck to do it, and you need to be further alongside to do it if you're going to try it. I've seen it work, but it's a risky one to do. There's the dreaded Hamilton that seems to be biting people tonight. Now down is at Oggies once again. Does look like everybody's settling back into their rhythms now, but I think we're going to have a lot of action from this pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly have had so far, and I'm sure we'll continue as Rich Smith goes wide outside of Williams. Contact! Big contact between the Aston Martin and the McLaren there. Fortunately, Stamenkovic is still pointing in the right direction, but Rich Smith getting very wide outside of Williams. He's now dropped back behind Marcus Hagel. He's actually been replaced in the 6th place by Chris Pinchbeck now, and just got a little bit too wide coming out of there. Lost the back end. There was nothing either of them could have done. Really unfortunate for Rich to get caught up in that, and he's then left quite a mark on the front end of that McLaren, that number 12 Sancho Simsport car of Stamenkovic. That is very unfortunate indeed. Rich was having a fantastic race up until that point. Was just about to say, very nearly got himself up into P3 at a point when there was that little coming together between Stamenkovic and Pavlovic, but didn't happen. And as a result, dropping back down the field. He looks like he's in P9 at the moment, just ahead of the man on your screen currently, which is Dave Hedges. So you just see there's a slight little wobble, isn't there, Chris, on that bonnet of that Aston Martin. So it's looking a little bit second hand. Hopefully won't impact him too much, but that's certainly going to have a very, very difficult impact on his race until the end of this one, because that's going to make that car a little bit more difficult to handle in the last hour and 7 minutes.
It's going to see. It's going to be interesting to see how Stemenkovic handles his car. Let's have a look at. So that's where it started to go wrong. He bounced off the apex of Williams and then just catches the McLaren. I mean, he did his best to try and keep it under control, but sadly, the tail end of the Aston just lets go. It was Asalovic on the grass, avoiding the golf-flavoured Aston. Oh goodness me! Yes, Stemenkovic was slammed pretty hard. Pinchbeck now up into 5th position because of it. That number 12 McLaren is going to be in a lot of pain now, because that was a hell of a hard hit against the wall. It was wasn't even really that flat. He was he was pitched into the wall. There he is now behind the number 43 Aston Martin, and I don't reckon that Milos Stemenkovic is going to have an awful lot to answer to the Aston. And there you go, you can start to see Pinky start to pull away, well, actually quite easily from that angle, from the McLaren. So we'll see what Milos. Try that sentence again. See what Milos Stemenkovic is going to be able to do. There is Dave Hedges in the Simsport Racing Audi. We saw him have he was one of the several people that have a moment down in Hamilton earlier on the back of Rich Smith, who has, of course, just had his moment on the back straight, as mentioned. There's the next Audi behind him, Yannick Müller. About 5 seconds between the two. Yeah, so a race of attrition, this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incident-filled first 25 minutes, this one. Amazingly, it's already been 25 minutes in. Robbie Stapleford leads the way, fairly comfortably, very comfortably by 15.3 seconds. Back to Jonathan Seville. He managed to get past Slatko Pavlovic a couple of laps ago and nearly brought Milos Stemenkovic with him, but Pavlovic has retained third place and is retaining a fairly decent gap between himself and Seville. He's not been dropped by the Ferrari driver just yet. Rasmus Christensen, Seville's teammate, sits in P4. He's a second or so back, and then you've got Pinchbeck sitting a few seconds back from there after he got past Stemenkovic. Of course, Milos sitting in P6 is the man who was trying to make the move on Zlatko Pavlovic at the same time as Seville did, but unfortunately he just got a little bit too late on the brakes and caught up in a couple of instances. One where he went off at Murray's, and then the second one where he went off at on the Bentley Straight when he came together with Rich Smith. Speaking of Rich Smith, he's just gone past Marcus Hagen, who's just picking up back off an incident. He's dropped down to P10, so that's promoted those two guys up to a cup position each. It'll be interesting to see what happened to Marcus. Looked, Chris, like he was in relatively clear air, so I wonder if it's just another one of those. We've seen a few of them so far. It didn't look like he may have lost it in Hamilton, but maybe one of the other corners following that one.
Look at that. Look at Mr. Pinchbeck now with quite a bit of comfortable space behind him. Even with a back marker, that'll be Sam Parker, I'm assuming. In the McLaren, just not knowing how best to do that one. I think just kind of like, leave me alone. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, that's Stemenkovic. I mean, again, I imagine he's just struggling to do anything with that car. Adam Asalovic now on his tail. And it would seem that he's probably going to be able to dispatch of the number 12 Zancho McLaren relatively easily. Again, I mean no disrespect, but he's got no answer. That car is just too heavily damaged. But I mean, fair play, he's not brought it in. He hasn't. Ooh, don't do it like that! Oh, impact between himself and the McLaren. The McLaren is blocking the road. Oh, this could get rather nasty. Well done, everybody else, and Asalovic quite rightly, staying behind the McLaren. Oh, it's very tight to go side by side down into Hamilton. It's Rich Smith then making his way through. Oh, he's now Asalovic is going to come past. Oh, he even gives him another door nudge and returns the position back to the McLaren again. There's Dave Hedges in the Audi trying to figure out what on earth is going on. Rich Smith is now running off into the distance. Oh my goodness, absolute chaos going on in the midfield. Oh, this could get very interesting coming down into... Oh, don't go 3 wide into Brundle. And yeah, the McLaren just can't turn. He's going to straight line that one. Hopefully he doesn't collect anybody. I would imagine he's going to have to slow down as a result of that, because he didn't gain a position, he just failed to lose one. into Coram, he's not looking interested in giving up any time, is he? That's an unusual. I mean, his argument will be, I could not turn, which, if he can't turn to make that corner, he needs to be pitting to get that car looked at. And he does, yeah. And he does, yeah. That car was obviously getting too difficult to deal with. Whoops, that's Pavlovich. That's Pavlovich trying to make a move back on Seville. So has the Porsche found some pace again?
Yeah, it looks like. I mean, he's only 2/10 up. He was only 2/10 up on Jonathan Seville on the last lap. You see Stamenkovic and Vidago going into the pits. So it's just going to cast back to that flurry of action we just saw. It reminded me a bit of watching Brickcar, where you've just got all those many different classes of cars, because there were so many people doing so many different speeds for so many different reasons. It all just looked like a flurry of activity. But fortunately, mostly anyway, we seem to get through it relatively unscathed. Adam Misalovic showing some lovely sportsmanship to nudge Stamenkovic twice and let him back through twice as well, which is always what we like to see. But Stamenkovic, Vidago and Rob Jackson, the three to be in the pit lane at the moment. We'll see what happens with Milos, whether he's going to fix that damage. You'd assume he'd have to, because he looked like he was really struggling out there, proper walking wounded in that McLaren. But we'll have to keep an eye on Zlatko Pavlovich on the camera at the moment, someone to keep a keen eye on, because, as you said, Chris, he does seem to, I mean, it looks to me as if he just wasn't particularly a big fan of having to sit and lead that train of cars. Now he's got someone ahead of him, but a reference point just seems to be finding his groove a little bit and finding a bit of pace. They're still, don't get me wrong, they're still nearly 18 seconds behind Robbie Stapleford. So it is made very much, this is a fight for the final two positions on the podium, no doubt about it. But it is one of those that will continue to hot up. And unfortunately for Pavlovich, he's in a sandwich of two teammates in the Pole Simsport team. So he's going to have his work cut out to try and get that final step on the podium before the end of this evening.
Stamenkovic is back on track. That was quick. I thought he'd be in there a bit longer than that. But
he's come out behind Vidago, so it's unsurprising that happened. But yeah, he's relatively quick.
Oh, he's going to be swallowed by that pack we were just talking about, unless that McLaren can rediscover Robbie Stapleford kind of level of pace. Which, again, if he's able to pull away from the pack behind, he's allowed to do so. But I imagine he might just want to pull over and let them go. Especially if he's kind of unsure on how the car's going to behave. He doesn't look keen on doing so at the moment.
In the chat as well, Miles Dixon mentioned Jonathan Searle's got 10 seconds of damage, so that might explain why he's struggling to get away from Pavlovich in that 512 Porsche. I'd be interested to see where that actually came about from, because I don't recall him being caught up in anything in particular that would have made that damage occur. So interested to see, but that, I mean, it says a lot about the absolute pace that Seville has got, because he's still managing to keep what is arguably a faster Porsche at bay and his teammate behind as well, and he's running just underneath a 48 at the moment, so he's clearly off the pace to an extent, but managing it well as Milos Stamenkovic. I think that was exit stage left and comes back on, coming through Coram. Did he catch Rasmus Christensen? He didn't, fortunately. I was about to say there's a very long gap between the two, and I was getting a little bit worried. Fortunately managed to carry on. I wonder if that might be the last hurrah from Milos Stamenkovic as we turn our attention to the battle for P7, which is formed of Adam Misalovic, Dave Hedges, Yannick Muller and Marcus Hagel. They're all very, very close to giving you a blanket on the four of them, and you'd be able to cover all of them. Don't hit your teammate, Yannick, please don't do that. Very, very close as they go through Murray's and onto the main straight. Yannick Muller's going to look for the move here, surely. Or is it going to be a case of team orders? It's not. Dave pulls rank and goes, no thank you, Sunshine, I will carry on where I am, thank you very much.
We've lost car treble 5. That is Rob Jackson. He is no longer on the timing tower, so another one for, but we'll have no one left by the time that the checkered flag falls at this rate. But alas, Snetterton has bitten another. As we continue to look at this enthralling battle for 7th position, currently being defended, as mentioned, by Adam Misalovic. Yeah, not a lot of team orders going on between the Simsport pair, although I'm sure there will be some team talking if they do take each other off.
Absolutely. Love to be a fly on the wall in that debrief.
Yeah, just avoid flying objects. Well, I mean, Yannick Muller is really trying to put the pressure on. No, he's not just sitting there and waiting for the Masters. He's by his Hedges has gone a little bit too deep, coming out of Williams onto the Bentley Straight, side by side for the two Audis now. Oh, now how's this one going to shake out? There's Rich Smith in the Aston, and Hedges is behind. So there could have been a case of, yeah, all right, fair enough, I'll let you go. But it really, if Muller was the quicker one, Hedges should have really let him go earlier. But fair enough. Oh, the tail of the second Audi getting very, very out of shape, going through bomb hole there, right behind Marcus Hagel, just watching a great show from a great ringside seat. But the Simsport boys live to race another day, and wow, and judging by the gap that's already forming between Muller and Hedges, I'd say that switch around was probably the right thing to do then, as Yannick Muller's already got himself a bit of breathing space to his teammate, so he can continue to defend against Hagel. We've lost another from this race.
That's Stemenkovic lost now. I just saw him go into the pit lane. It's unsurprising, given the amount of damage that he seems to be under, as Pavlovich going past, or trying to get past, Jonathan Seville into Agostini, going into Hamilton. He's got the inside line. We've seen some bust-ups here so far. Just about managed to keep out of each other's way as they go into Oggies. He's going late on the brakes. You have to hang it right around the outside. He's going to be at his disadvantage going on to the Bentley Straight, even more so because he's been nudged out of the way and nearly got caught by Rasmus Christensen. He is in the wars. He is literally being tag teamed by these Ferraris at the moment. He is not having it his own way. He's going to try and look at a move into Brundle, and in towards Nelson under the brakes as Christensen goes a bit close. Goes a bit deep, and that's going to give Christensen the chance to get the move done into bomb hole, but has to back out. Not a place where you're going to get the move done. And somehow, Pavlovich has nearly got into second, nearly got back down into fourth, but he's ended up in third again. Unbelievable stuff.
But again, it's that middle section, as I thought the Porsche would be. It's in that section that the Porsche really seems to be coming alive for Pavlovich at the moment. Well, at the moment, it has been all race long. He's able to stay with the Ferrari all the way down the start-finish straight, with no doubt the slipstream really helping there. And in that centre bit, he's just got that tiny bit of pace advantage, but just hasn't quite got enough to get past John Seville, although John Seville and, in fairness, Rasmus Christensen doing a brilliant job of keeping that Porsche under control. But it's just going to take one mistake for that all to go horribly wrong. We just saw Chris Pinchbeck in the background of the shot. Now, of course, he's some time quicker than this pack of three. What was the time last time? So 49.9 for Jonathan Seville, 47.8. So 2.1 seconds quicker for the Aston Martin. So yeah, at that pace, Pinky Pinchbeck will be involved in this in about half a dozen laps. That's, of course, assuming they carry on holding each other up like that. As we've got somebody in the pits, that's Simon Wilkes from 14th place in the Ferrari. Yeah, the pit crews are going to have a bit of an easier time today.
Absolutely, something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, plenty of damage to be fixed so far. Like I say, Simon Wilkes in the pit lane at the moment, because you can see the gap on track now. That's Pinchy just in the background of the camera shot. So it was 6 seconds at the last timing board. It's stayed very similar. But then again, like we said, the Aston Martin maybe struggling a little bit through the tighter, twisty sections of this track, which, to be fair, there's quite a few of. But Rasmus Christensen has just dropped a little bit off the back of Pavlovich, which just gives Pavlovich a chance to maybe get a bit of a squeeze on Johnny Seville. We know he's carrying damage. We've heard that from Mars, one of his teammates, in the chat on the broadcast so far. So it just gives, if Pavlovich can keep that gap at bay, and he can start to just close up to Johnny a little bit. You can actually see the damage. Goodness me, you can see where that's come from. It's a battered and bruised front end of that Ferrari of Seville. If he can keep that gap behind and just start to close in ahead, he's going to give himself the chance to make the move. And that's the thing he's struggling with at the moment, isn't it, Chris? He's trying to make the move, but he's got another car so close behind him, the move has to be perfect. And if it's not, he loses time when Rasmus Christensen decides to get in on the act as well, which we've seen happen at least 2 or 3 times so far, and I'm sure will continue to as they continue as close as they are.
Absolutely. Marcus Hagel comes in from 10th position in the 117 McLaren for his mandatory pit stop. Oh, it's again a bit deep there for Jonathan Seville. He's that front end of the Ferrari not behaving itself as well as he'd like, but Pavlovich just not able to take advantage of that at the moment. Although he gets very, very close, but he doesn't have the pace advantage on the Bentley Straight, and not unless he's nailed to the back of the Ferrari, which he's fairly close, but I don't think he's going to be close enough, not unless he absolutely throws it onto the inside of Brundle, but I don't reckon he's going to. He doesn't seem really inclined to banzai into a corner. Oh, if anything, he was a tad too deep into Brundle, and might compromise into Nelson. Yeah, that's what I thought. He looked a little bit too deep going into Brundle. It put him too close to the apex of Nelson, and I did say that curve was nasty, and Pavlovich has fallen foul of it, and that's cost him some time. On board with Yannick Müller on the back of the second of the Samada Ferraris. We've seen Simon Wilkes in the number 5. There is Adam Asalovic on the back of Rich Smith as well. So another three-way battle going on. This was 6th position. Bearing in mind, it didn't seem that long ago when Pinchbeck was in this particular fight, and he's well down the road. He's 10 seconds to the good. Or you can't even see him in this camera shot, so he's long, long gone. In comes the number 143. The way that pit lane entry is, I always think they're going to slam into the wall. They never do, but it always looks like they're going to hit the wall on the way in.
always puts it a bit of peril in the eyes of the commentator and spectators, which is what we like to have anyway, nonetheless. See where he comes out. He's the kind of person we need to keep an eye out for. Just in terms of the battle for the back end of the top 10, of course, Marcus Hagel we saw pitted a couple of laps ago. He was in P10 and wasn't too far off the back of this group of cars before. That's him in the foreground ahead of your current race leader and complete blitzer of the field, Robbie Stapleford. That's one of the Simsport Racing Predators cars behind him, one of Vidago or Mitchell. Didn't quite catch who it was. You can see Stuart Mcleod in the Not Fast Just Furious machine, again a team name that always makes me chuckle, is behind the Schumi Get Well Soon car of Sebastian de Tolinero, who slowly but surely and very quietly got about his business and made his way up through the field. He started at the back end of the top 20 and is now sitting in P9. Of course, still yet to pit as Muller comes out, seems to see the time board shake out in a minute just to make sure he is definitely in P12, but he does seem to have come out ahead of Marcus Hagel by around about 12 seconds. So that's a good little gap for Yannick to fall into. He looks like he's got a nice little gap ahead of him as well. It's actually 4 seconds quicker in the pit stop phase as well. So that does make all the difference as Stuart Mcleod looks to the inside down the Bentley Straight. Is he going to go for a move? It's a little bit late. It's a little bit leery going into Nelson. And as a result, has to back out of it in the end. But, Chris, it looks like this is a move that Stuart wants to get done sooner rather than later. It looks to me like he's got some sort of pace or some sort of very decent pace advantage over there, as I've just noticed. Oh my goodness me, what has happened there? That is a really strange incident from those two. It just looked like Donington just backed off, going through the back.
And McLeod is now allowed to Tolinero to maintain that position. Yeah, I think you and I just spotted the same thing. These three, the Porsche's back in the middle again. Yeah. I did notice that. I was going to mention that just before the Ferrari's trying to integrate of de Tolinero and McLeod. Yeah, I don't know why de Tolinero slowed down. I'm sure McLeod's asking the same question, but that was odd because he didn't look like he was going particularly deep. He wasn't going particularly hot from that angle at least, into Coram. But either way, de Tolinero felt the need to scrub off some speed, and that caught out his pursuer. Either way, that's Hedges and de Tolinero now into the pits. It's Hedges back out of the pits, but Tolinero now serving his stop. And there in the background, now we did say that Pinchbeck would be with this pack before long, and he's now just shy of 3 seconds behind it. There he is in the golf-coloured Aston, and he's not under challenge by his teammate, not for a long time. Let's have a look again at what happened during the Ferrari. So this is on the Bentley Straight. That was that sort of fairly non-existent. I say that. They got very, very close. Moment from McLeod. So now we're going to go through the right-hander of Bombhole. Now, at some point, the lead Ferrari of this particular... Is it going to back up? Oh, yeah, there we go. So there we go. So he felt the need to get out of the gas because he did understeer. So the front just didn't want to play balls. He got out of it, and that caught McLeod completely by surprise there. As Rich Smith is now in the pits from 6th position. in the Aston Martin. But yeah, I'd love to know what happened with these three, because Pavlovich did lose quite a bit of time a few laps ago, and he's now back up into third position. Not quite in a position to challenge Jonathan Seville, or John Seville was a bit deep coming into Agostini, but that car is wounded. That's not really a surprise. Through Hamilton now, fairly well behaving themselves. That's Sam McLeod that is coming in from 9th place. Not surprised, because that car probably doesn't want to behave itself. So we're hitting the halfway point. Here we go. So there you go. So, bang! Yes, De Tollen. That was the back shot from De Tollenaire. Oh, that's enough to give you vertigo, isn't it? anyone that doesn't like roller coasters, look away. Oh, Pavlovich! Well, he suddenly closed that gap down again, utilising the grip advantage probably from the Porsche through that middle section. Closed right back in on Jonathan Seville. Wow, he had a big old slipstream gain. Or Jonathan Seville couldn't get the pace down he needed from Williams, which compromised him all the way down the Bentley Straight. Wow, Pavlovich really putting the pressure on now. On board with the Porsche. Into Murray's. Who's going to blink? Are they going to be coming in? Because we're hitting the halfway stage of the race now. No, these guys are looking to carry on. And there we go. So we're going to have a side-by-side coming into Ritchie's now. Ferrari on the inside line is going to have the advantage, I think. Yeah, Pavlovich backed out of that to try and hit the racing line. He wants to banzai that on the inside of Williams. And there he goes. Yeah, because that's where his grip advantage is. Oh, and Seville tried to turn in there. In comes Christensen. Did they swap round? No, they didn't. But yeah, that's why Pavlovich wanted to make the move there, so that he's got this entire middle section to try and build up a gap. That's where the Porsche's been. And there's Pinchbeck as well, just 4 seconds back. Now Christensen's having a go. Lack of team orders going on there. Oh, there we go. So that's Seville pulling over. Just literally, just as I say that, then the Pulse boys swap round. There's the ever-closing golf-coloured Aston of Chris Pinchbeck. Asalovic is in from 6th position as well. Now this will be interesting. Will Christensen be able to stay on the back of Pavlovich and drag Seville along with him? Copeland is coming, Ash Copeland, the 463 car, coming in for 7th position. So not many pit stops still to do, but so we're over halfway now. And there you can see the pace difference between Pinchbeck and Seville in those last few laps. So is the damage on that Ferrari becoming a bit more awkward to deal with? And if so, I would expect to see him in fairly soon.
I mean, it was a very good move from Pavlovich, like you say, a little bit on the aggressive side, towed the line a little bit, but he kind of did need to make that kind of move. Really set it up really nicely, didn't he? Used the slipstream on the the main straight, sorry. Gave the impression he was going to go for a move into Ritchie's, and then just elected to save a bit of time. Very good racecraft from him. Just went, right, I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. And then, yeah, for want of a better phrase, sent it down into Wilson, but sent it in such a way that it was going to happen. He just had to make sure that he got on the brakes in time, which he did. He made the apex of the corner. It was just a case of when they did come together slightly, it was just Seville turning in and then just having a Porsche just appear on his right hand, on the front right hand side of his car. So he did a really good job of it, and I think it was very sensible from Jonathan just to give Rasmus the chance just to come through into Agostini, just see if he can keep the pace. It did look like they were close enough. It's interesting, remains to be seen whether they were close because Johnny was kind of backing Pavlovich into his teammate. But that remains to be seen. We'll have to keep an eye out over the next couple of laps. So 7/10 between the two of them at the moment, those final 2 positions on the podium. Jonathan Seville, you'd imagine if he's fixing the damage he has, which you'd like to think he is going to lose out pretty much confirmed on a podium position. He just comes out of the pit lane now. He's going to be very close to Yannick Muller, is he perhaps? Or it actually looks like he's going to get quite a bit of clear air. So his pit stop's been the same as pretty much everyone else. I'm just checking that on the live timing. So he's looks to me, Chris, like he's just done a tyre stop. So we'll see how his pace is to come towards the end of this race, because by the looks of it, he's not actually going to fix the damage. As our race leader, we haven't seen him much, but we'll keep a mention to him here and there. Robbie Stapleford comes into the pits. It's not going to be the most awkward or most focused of pit stops, you would say, potentially, from the young man.
Yeah, he's got time for a bit of a snack going on in there. He's got time to actually make a pizza or something. Yeah, Robbie Stapleford in for his mandatory stop. He's only in there because he has to be. So Pavlovich is actually going to take over the race lead for a little while, along with Christensen still chasing hard. So Rasmus Christensen not willing to let the Porsche dance off into the sunset. Chris Pinchbeck has come in as well from 4th position. Great effort from him. It's just the top 2 then, as you can see on the tower, that have not pitted just yet. Out comes Robbie Stapleford. You can imagine he'll close in fairly easily. Oh, there's Stuart Mcleod on the back of his sparring partner, the Tollinaire. There's also Ash Copeland right ahead of them. So there's another. So we've resumed a 3-way fight, this time for 14th position. It's no less thrilling, no matter where in the field it is. Is that Regan Mitchell we just saw go out of the shot? Yes, it is. So all the Aston getting a bit, misbehaving a little bit coming into Agostini as McLeod nearly joins De Tollinaire again in his car. Has a look on the inside, but not really committing to a move on the inside of Hamilton, and I'm not surprised from that far back. Oh, these two. Oh, again, that's very deep for De Tollinaire. Side by side now for McLeod. That's left the inside line wide open into Williams, and that is surely going to be job done. Yep, that is McLeod now ahead. Sebastian De Tollinaire for 15th position.
It was coming, wasn't it? It was a move that had been shaping up for the past 10 minutes or so, and finally Stuart's managed to make the move stick. It was a really good move in the end, like I say, just saw Sebastian just drop a little bit deep, going into Oggy's, made the most of it, got his car at the inside, and just used that grip out of the inside of the corner of Williams just to get that move done. Pavlovich, you can see, leading the race at the moment. He is your net race leader. Of course, Robbie Stapleford has neglected or has relieved himself of the lead by coming to the pits, as does P2 Rasmus Christensen. We just see him just behind the timing board there. So that leaves Pavlovich the chance to really stretch his legs. Let's see what the pace of this Porsche is. He did seem to gap a little bit to Christensen on the last lap. He was a little bit quicker on that occasion. I mean, I'd say that wasn't that much quicker in fairness. He was only half a tenth, but it certainly made it look like he was getting away. Robbie Stapleford resumes 2nd place. He'll come back up to 1st as soon as the man in your camera elects to serve his pit stop as well. Pavlovich, of course, the only man on track at this point who is yet to make his mandatory pit stop. As you can see, some support from Martin Gogala in the chat online to support his teammate Sebastian De Tollinaire, trying to pick up some good points for the Schumi Get Well Soon team. Hopefully he can start to make a little bit of an imposing on the back of Stuart Mcleod, as Stuart did before. I'm convinced, Chris, that Stuart just wanted a bit of red paint on the front of that Ferrari. He did seem to have quite a keen focus on the back of that Schumi Get Well Soon machine.
Now, that's
on Ash Cooper. He just seems to force them into that mistake, doesn't he? It seems to happen every time. He just seems to be able to just put them under a bit of pressure. They make the mistake into Hamilton. He goes, right, here you go. Oh, here we go. Make the move. And on we go, on to the next one.
Yeah, so the Aston is likely to stay ahead of the Ferrari behind, although feels the need to not hit the racing line quite so early. Stuart Mcleod again having a look, but we know that's not going to amount to anything, as the Aston's gone a bit deep. That's going to compromise, and there we go again. As that is the natural effect. Unfortunately, if you go deep into Brundle, it's so difficult to make any kind of line through Nelson, and you end up smacking that curb, or you're very, very slow, or you end up doing spinning or something. Either way, the Aston has just about survived it. And coming through Murray's, the Ferrari's really getting close. Oops, that's a little bit deep from Sebastian De Tollinaire in the background. That's going to cost him a lot of time on this battle. There in the foreground is Regan Mitchell, who's having, I think it's fair to say, a fairly miserable race by his own standard. Looking back from the Aston, just in case you couldn't tell by the rear wing. Now through Riches into... And again, you can see that Mcleod is really determined. A little bit close there. You can see how far off the apex he was. That was just too deep. There's Tree Man in the scenery line there. Sadly, no longer there. It's always worth mentioning the Tree Man. Now because of that one mistake, look at Ash Copeland didn't need a second invitation of that. He's really managed to give himself. There you go, 7 tenths in one mistake.
All adds up, doesn't it? Like you say, Stuart just seems. As nice as I want to put it, I don't mean it in a bad way, he just seems like he's on the ragged edge at every corner at the moment. It just seems like he wants to make a move at every single corner that he's got, which is a fun attitude to have if you're him. Maybe not so much a fun attitude if you're the car in front of him, because I can imagine Ash is probably sitting there thinking, well, I've got to me. I might have to do a double touch into the apexes at least, just in case a Ferrari does appear on my inside. Looks like he's going to be all right going down the Bentley Straight. He's got a little bit of a gap to Stuart behind him, so as they come into Brundle and then into Nelson. Oh my goodness me, he seems to go so late on the brakes. I know the Ferrari's good at the brakes, but goodness me, seems to be a lot more confident than Ashley Coupland does in front of him. But still, they continue in the same position they were before. Still, Zlatko Pavlovic yet to pit. He's losing time hand over fist to Robbie Stapleford. Not that it matters, because he's not like he's going to get in and out of the pit lane before Sancho Simsport car comes out and resumes the race lead. But he has lost over a second. In fact, he lost a second and a half on the last lap. Robbie Stapleford putting in a fastest lap of a 140. Oh, there you go. A 145.4 on the last lap, as opposed to Pavlovic's 147.2. So that's what that tune of 1.8 seconds gained out on that lap time. Obviously, Stapleford is on fresh rubber, so we know that for a fact, and he will be quicker generally. But even so, that is an imperious amount of pace that number one car has got.
And Pavlovic is not allowed to do a zero stop. The pit stop is mandatory. What you do in the pit stop is up to you. But you have got to see your pit crew at some stage. Hopefully Pavlovic has remembered that. There is the Pulse Simsport boys ahead of that's Pinchback in the background of the shot. Let's have a look at the lap times. 46.5, 46.5, nice and consistent. Pinchback was a little bit off that pace, 47.2. That's only about 7/10 away, but there is the Wild Jaguar of Paspon. Let's had a lap put on him. I mean, fair play for wrestling with that Jaguar. He hasn't changed the car. He's opted to stick with it. I mean, okay, he wouldn't be allowed to in the rules, but he could have just done it anyway. As we can see how difficult that thing is to manoeuvre as we were getting through Palmer there. And that's the back end of a grandstand. So the camera cutter in there. There's Stein Paspon now coming through Hamilton. It's a great looking beast, sounds wonderful, but sadly is not delivering the performance for him.
No, absolutely not ideal for Stein. But like you say, credit to the cause. He's staying committed to it. She goes a little bit sideways coming out of Oggies there. It's not what you want to be doing at that sort of speed. One thing I have noticed is, he goes sideways again through Williams. Wowee. Keeping it on the black stuff just about, running the ragged edge of that car. One thing I have noticed is the fact that Johnny Seville and Rasmus Christensen have swapped positions once more. Johnny Seville, we mentioned, did a 55-second stop, so he would have definitely changed tyres, as is everyone else, of course, mandatory tyre stops in this GT3 Championship this season. But Rasmus Christensen was 59 seconds in the pit stop from hitting the speed limiter and coming out on the other side. So a little bit slower from the number 28 car, which has meant as a result, you can see here they've had that change in position. Robbie Stapleford still putting in some ludicrously fast lap times, a 1:45.6 on the last tour. That was a second and 1.2 seconds quicker than these two behind him, and 1.4 seconds faster than the man ahead of him. So it's now, where you see there, just under 15 seconds. If Pavlovic continues on for too long, Chris, he's going to lose the position on the track, and he's not even going to be able to lose it in the pit lane and say that for himself at the end of the race. He does need, I would think, to make that pit stop happen soon, because he's actually running a few tenths of a second slower per lap than these two guys are at the moment. Of course, we know Seville's still carrying some damage, so he's running this very, very riskily, I think, because if he doesn't come in too soon, he will lose the position to these guys. Of course, he'll have fresh rubber, but we saw how difficult it was for him to make the move on either of them. I think he's running himself out of a podium if he's not too careful.
I'm thinking the same thing. Yannick Müller has made a mistake last time around. He did a 1:53.6, and he's lost 6th position to David Hedges. He's gone wide somewhere. He went for an explore. Yeah, I don't understand what Pavlovic is doing. It's not like the longer he runs, the shorter the pit stop is. And also, he'll have less time to utilise that fresh rubber. So I don't really understand. As he gone very deep there, and Palmer just about gets away with that. I don't really see what he's trying to do. But, he'll carry on. Of course, if he doesn't pit, he'll take the checkered flag, but he'll be disqualified. So I'm hoping someone is sort of saying, you do know you have got to be in the pits at some point. It's not like the pit lane will close. He could come in the last couple of laps if he so really wanted to. He'd lose so much time doing it. There's nothing to gain by pitting that late. This has got to be. I'm just thinking, actually, this is probably the latest pit stop we've seen for a one-stop race all season.
I think you're not too far wrong, to be fair, Chris. He's going very, very, very deep, and I'm just looking at the timing board at the moment. For reference, if any of you are watching do want to see the live timers as well, then what you want to do is you want to head to pitwall.live and search for the Simsport Solutions server. There's your tenuous link for you. Plug the live timing as much as you can. But I'm looking at it, and the timing between Pavlovich and Seville at the moment is 53.6 seconds. He has to put it this way: he's either got to put in the world's most perfect pit stop and be quicker than 55 seconds, which is what Seville did, which is the fastest I've seen, or, like you said, he has to make the most of the fresh rubber he puts on in the last, well, however long he's going to be. We don't know when he's going to fit in. He's almost put himself into a position where he's lost himself a podium. If he'd have covered off those two, he would have come out and he would have had at least probably 3 or 4 seconds leeway between them. But instead, he's running as late as possible. One thing I guess he is doing, Chris, which is something that I've just heard in my ear from broadcaster Steve Proudley, is he's probably now taken the runner-up spot for the most laps led this season behind Robbie Stapleford. So maybe that's what he's looking for. If he does finish on the podium, I apologise in advance, because if it works for you, then I will have egg on my face. But I don't think at the moment he's going to end up with a podium. He's running it too long. He's losing time pretty much every lap. And I think he's going to end up looking a little bit silly. I've got to be honest.
Well, I will share that egg with you, because I'm certain that you're absolutely spot on there. As we see the Pulse guys, aren't they having an absolute stormer yet again? They're second in the championship, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
are.
They would take the lead at this rate.
They would.
Based on the fact that Stojankovic has had to retire as well.
Yeah, they're only 5 points behind Sancho. Only one of their cars scoring, and one of the Pulse. We think both of the Pulse Sports McLarens are going to be on the podium. Ferraris rather are going to be on the podium at this point. Throwback to Mark Neutelings with the unusually late pit stop, but I don't know that
he's pit.
Oh, finally! There's a chance then. There is still a chance that so he's going to be behind the Pulse Ferrari. So there we can see with the picture-in-picture. No, that's a good point. How close is Mr. Pinchback going to be? Well, he's been falling behind. He's not been gaining on the two Ferraris ahead. So I don't know about that.
He's been a little bit off the pace, isn't he? 48.0 on the last lap. He's not quite got the pace he had towards the back end of that first stint. You can see the two Pulse Simsport cars running line of stern, coming through Coram and in towards Murray's for what is going to be the 33rd time of asking. Zlatko Pavlovich still stationary in your picture-in-picture. He is going to lose this by quite some distance. He is towards the back end of the pit lane, but you can see he's just dropped off the jacks. He's ready to go. Pinchbeck is going to be very close indeed. Pinchy's going to get the move done as well, I think, in the pit stops. You can see there, cool as you like, even Yannick Muller's, Dave Hedges rather, is going to be putting the Porsche under pressure early doors in his second stint. And it's not really worked out very well for Pavlovich, has it, Chris? It would have been brilliant if it had worked.
I'd have been stunned if it had worked.
He's got to get that car doing the talking now. He's got to get them tyres switched on. He's got half an hour to gain 3 positions, because if he'd have pit when the others did, he would be in second right now. He has, in my opinion, I'm not going to hold back, he's messed this up completely. He's lost himself a podium.
I don't really understand what he was after, but either way, we've just been reminded that Mr. Pinchbeck here has gained 12 positions through staying out of trouble. And there is Pavlovich with Dave Hedges right on his case, so he can't just concentrate on getting on with the job forwards. He's got a pretty rapid Simsports Audi on his case. So this is going to really undo itself if he's got to defend from the number 88 behind. We will see if Pavlovich can get up to speed or what he's going to do, quite frankly. So it's going to be there you go. He's having to defend. He's jumped to the inside line really early because that Audi's been pretty handy for a while. Oh, as Dave Hedges is a bit compromised there, coming through Nelson. Now through Bombhole for the Porsche. So it does look like at the moment that Pulse are going to claim the two of the three podium spots. We'll see. Still 28 minutes to do. Anything can happen. We haven't had anybody retire for a while. Now I've said it. Snetterton's been pretty unkind to the attending cars. So we'll see if Snetterton will bite once again. But yeah, Pavlovich, I'm sorry to say, you've driven yourself out of the podium. But if you manage to get onto the podium, I will happily apologise for that statement. Absolutely,
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's assuming that he's not going to. That's assuming he's not going to lose the position to Dave Hedges. And just picking up on some of the comments in the chat on the stream. A lot of people referring to Chris Pinchbeck as Mr. Sunday rather than Mr. Saturday because he's pulled quite a rabbit out of the hat this evening. Like I say, 12 positions gained, and still the potential, if he can start to bring that pace back up again, the potential to come back at the two guys on the podium. He's only 6 and a bit seconds behind with 27 seconds left to go. We know Johnny Seville's got damage. We know he didn't fix it. Can Pinchy make a last-ditch run for the podium as if he can get that Golf Aston Martin onto there? Either way, with himself in 4th and Rich Smith admittedly sitting down in 10th, he's kind of run a slightly more incident-filled race than he would have wanted. That's still some good points for the team nonetheless. But like you said, Chris, the real winners in this Constructors' Championship, put my teeth back in, is the Pulse Simsport guys running 2nd and 3rd. If they keep it like this, they are going to absolutely blitz the Zancho team out of the water, and that just shows Robbie can be as quick as he is, but unfortunately for Milos Stamenkovic, he's been caught up in a lot of incidents in this season, and today was no different. Of course, it weren't his fault, majoritively, but it just shows if you get caught up in the mid-pack and you get caught up in these little incidents, it does prove such a detriment to your team's chance at the championship.
Wasn't it Stamenkovic that was deemed the incident magnet by your good self a little while ago?
No, that was Simon Wilkes as much as
yes. Big about
which ironically, when they mention it, I've not seen him in anything so far. He seems to be in a bit of a world of his own down in 12th position. He did, I think, drop down at the start of the race, but I didn't actually see anything, so I'm sure he'll be happy. Like I say, I don't think he causes a lot of these himself. I think he just gets caught up in them, so I'm sure he'll be pleased just whatever the position he gets back home in, that he gets back home in one piece. He's got a 21-second gap ahead of him to Vidago, and he's got a 16-second gap behind to Simon Wilkes. So he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment, which is unfortunate. But like I say, I'm sure he'll be quite happy just to bring that car home in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the lap times last time around, Pinchbeck is just not quite there. He's about half a second off of Rasmus Christensen. There he is in the gold-flavoured Aston. Just not quite there. There's Pavlovich behind, who has really broken away from Dave Hedges. So Pavlovich could. So yeah, Pavlovich, he's really now starting to push. He was 8-9 tenths faster than the Aston last time around. So maybe get 4th. Getting onto the podium though, you're going to need some luck on your side there, sir.
Yeah, and Pinchy's not going to be the easiest to customers to get past as well. But we know that Aston Martin is relatively quick in a straight line. Well, I mean, anything in etc. course competition is quick in a straight line compared to that Porsche. It is not exactly the most slippery of cars on the track this season. But like you say, he's certainly starting to turn the screw. A 146.5, on the last lap. Only man quicker. The man at the top of the timing charts, of course, Robbie Stapleford, but was only half a tenth quicker. So it shows you the pace that Pavlovich has got. I'm going to say it again. Why didn't he pit sooner? He'd have been comfortable in 2nd place if he'd have pit earlier, and now he's got to try and make his way around a difficult customer in the form of Chris Pinchbeck to get even into 4th place. It's baffling. But I'm sure there will have been reasoning, and if I had the chance to speak to him at the end, I don't think we will, because I don't think he'll get on the podium. But if he does, I will definitely be asking him what the thought process was behind that, because it just seemed like he drove himself into just some sort of no man's land.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of people who aren't in no man's land, is Rich Smith. You can see just looking up the inside of Marcus Hagel into Agostini. Of course, Rich got caught up. He lost it coming out of Williams early on in the race and got caught up with Milos Stomenkovic. He's now trying to make his way back up the leaderboard to try and close up and get a few more points for the Gulf Simsport Racing team. Very, very close to Roggies behind Marcus Hagel. I would imagine, Chris, that the rearview mirror of that McLaren 720S has probably got every little bit of that Gulf livery imprinted on it by now, based on the amount of distance between these two.
There's Adam Maselovic. It's feeling very lonely at the moment. Kieran Vidago behind, along with Paspon, who's on a different lap to the cars around him. Yeah, Rich Smith is piling the pressure onto Marcus Hagel. And isn't this again testament to what we say time and again, what we've seen this season, is that the battling just doesn't stop throughout it may stop for certain people, but there's always fights somewhere, even in a bit more of a depleted field that we've got this time to other races, and that's very deep for Hagel. Surely this is an opportunity for Rich Smith to muscle his way past, coming down into Rich's. He's staying there for the moment, or is he going to bounce out of that one? No, he stays there. I'm a bit surprised about that. Maybe he himself didn't get a good drive. He's going to want to do the inside of Williams. There he goes. There he goes. Yep, he's committed to that. Fairly straightforward move. He's planned to do that one. Maybe he just didn't want the counter-attack to happen, so that's why he chose to make that one at the hairpin instead of the right-hander. We always have battling, don't we? Pretty much all the way through the race, there's fighting somewhere. Is that not one of the greatest adverts for this series?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And speaking of the series itself, if anyone watching this does want to get involved, whether it's on track with these guys or whether it's in the comms box with myself and Chris and Steve proudly on the cameras, then you do need to make sure there should be a link in the description to the Discord server that the Simsport Racing International team runs through. Get involved in there, get yourself involved. I know there's been a number of new people that have signed up this weekend. Unfortunately, haven't been able to get in time for this. The link is actually in the chat itself, and if you can't find it, obviously just let us know and we'll fire it over to you. But it's a perfect chance to get involved, and like you say, we are running a little bit thinner on the ground tonight. It's been a war of attrition. That's definitely the right way. It is Snetterton. It's taken its fair few victims so far through many different incidents and many different corners, in fairness. But we have seen some fantastic racing nonetheless. We knew that racecraft was going to be important, and that it has been. And we've seen, as you saw there, Chris, a perfect example of Rich Smith making the move on Marcus Hagel. Didn't go too early, waited until he can get to the point where the move is pretty much a done deal if he can make it, and got the move and got himself up into ninth place.
Another half second to Pavlovich over Pinchbeck that last time around. So 47 flat for the Porsche, 47.5 for the Aston. With 20 minutes still to go, that's going to be a hell of a defensive drive from Mr. Pinchbeck if he wants to hang on to that fourth position. And there is the Porsche looming very, very large right behind him. And Dave Hedges not too far behind if that gets if they tangle. So we'll see how well the Aston is able to keep the Porsche at bay. I mean no disrespect, because Chris has had a brilliant race here at Snetterton, but I think that one is going to be a bit of a tall order. If he had maybe 1 or 2 laps to go, then sure, you could probably have a decent crack at keeping the Porsche behind. But never say never. This race has been bizarre enough in itself that you just saw the tail end of Christensen's car go out of the shot. The two Pulse JR Simsport Ferrari still very, very close to one another, and they're not really interested in challenging each other. They've got nothing to gain by trying to challenge for who's going to finish on which step of the podium. They're both fairly sure, as we see a bit of lawn mowing there from Pinchbeck. There are the two Ferraris out at the top of the shot. Yeah, they're not going to gain anything by trying to challenge each other. They're certainly not going to gain on Stapleford, not unless Stapleford decides to park it out of sympathy, which, yeah, he's not going to do that. We also haven't seen, that would be incredible. We haven't seen any penalties either. Now I've said it, I expect them to flood in, but we haven't really seen any penalties, have we?
No, I mean, let's face it, it's not one of those circuits where it's going to be easy to get any form of track warning penalties. I think we've seen what happens if you do run wide. You end up in a wall if you're not too careful. So I think it's probably one of those where you're not going to gain time by extending too much. You might do through certain corners, just like the one we've gone through there. You might get it through Murray's at the end of the lap and those sorts of ones where you've got that AstroTurf around the outside. But realistically, you've got to do something a little bit different to try and get some sort of drive-through penalty, I think. But, like I say, we've still got 18 minutes left. We've seen some bizarre stuff happen already this evening. The most bizarre thing would be is if that man in P1 got one of those drive-through penalties. We have, of course, seen it once already this season. As you see Regan Mitchell there going through Coram, he's off. He's down to P15. So that's Stuart Mcleod and Ash Coupland who have made their way through there. It did look like Stuart Mcleod did make the move on Ash in the end. And I think it's we're kind of waiting on the inevitable, aren't we, here, Chris? Because, well, to coin another Chris, he's losing a bit of time. Pavlovich is closing on him hand over fist. Of course, he has got those much fresher tyres, but it looks like Chris is going to have his work cut out trying to keep the Porsche behind, doesn't it?
Would seem to be, and yeah, we'll see. We will see. I mean, even if Chris just pulls over and lets the Porsche go, and to be honest, you wouldn't blame him because you know realistically who you're in a battle with, it's still going to be an absolutely brilliant performance from Mr. Pinchbeck. There's what's Dave Hedges up to? What's his lap time? 47.6. No, he's slower than the both of them. 46.7 for the Porsche. My goodness me! So still a lot of pace for Pavlovich, but he's how far is he behind second? 11 seconds.
11 seconds,
behind Seville. That's how much time he'd lost with that bizarre strategy.
Yeah, again, like I say, mention it enough times, mention it once more. It's just a really weird strategic decision. I obviously, with some of these guys, they have got people in their ears. They've got engineers, for want of a better phrase, can help them out, making sure they make the right strategy call. We don't know if Zlatko's got that in his locker and he's got that available. But even so, if you're in that position, you just cover off the man who you're nearest battling with. If you're in that circumstance, there's no adverse weather coming in. It's been perfect conditions the entire way through. The track is cooling down as we're getting in towards the evening, but it's still. There's not enough change in anything to warrant going longer and playing that gamble. And it's like I say, it's just not paid off, unfortunately, for him. And of course, like we say, he is so much quicker than Pinchbeck at the moment. He's probably, I would say, got the pace differential to make the move. It just depends on whether he's going to have the racecraft to do it. Of course, we saw him make the move on Jonathan Seville, who was very quick, but he did have 10 seconds worth of damage as far as we understand. So it's going to be a difficult one as Pinchy just covers off the inside into Murray's. Kind of compromises the exit a little bit, but again, the Aston Martin is such a beast in a straight line compared to the Porsche. You could just see there, Pavlovich just can't get close enough. We're on the roof of the Apex Predator 512 machine. Again, takes a tighter line through Riches. He's going to try and get the run out of there into Wilson. He is, but again, he's not close enough. He had to absolutely send it to get the move done on Seville, and he's going to have to try and do that again, you would assume. Because at the moment he's not going to have the benefits in the right areas to get this move done, I don't think.
Yeah, that was actually, this is a great camera to see the different lines that you can take through certain corners. Coming into Agostini, it looks like that Pinchbeck seems to take a more gradual line to the apex, whereas Pavlovich seems to prefer turning very late and trying to maximise the exit. So yeah, that's probably because the Porsche has that little bit better corner efficiency than the Aston, but the Aston, of course, has the advantage on the straight, as we've mentioned time and again. Now through Williams, there's only really one way to take this one, it's either the right way or grass.
I was thought you were going to say the right way or the Rich Smith way, but that was very mean.
Wasn't me! I didn't say that!
He'll be coming for me after that, I think. Sorry, Rich.
So into Brundle and Nelson, yep, they've taken that quite nicely. Now, it was into Coram and Murray, so I thought I saw they really did it quite differently last time around. Let's see how they do it this time. There's Bomb Hole, which is fairly flat in no matter how you do it. Now you'll see the Aston wander a little bit wide, come back in, and then dive for the apex. Yeah, there's the difference we've seen. unlike the Porsche, just hugged that inside line constantly, and now you're seeing the benefit of why that Porsche wanted to hug that line. He just got a brilliant exit, but the Aston's just going to gallop away. Nice try, Sunshine, not today. Oh, that line's not going to be very comfortable through Riches, though. Oh, why did you hit the apex so hard? Covers the inside line. No, you're not going to make an outside manoeuvre work from that far back. Oh, Pinchbeck is feisty. He's not willing to let the Porsche just go. And fair play, why should he? There's no reason why he should just roll over and play dead. But yeah, it's great seeing the different lines being used. That's either driver style or car difference or a bit of both. Oh, big move from Pavlovich on the inside of Agostini. No impact between the two. Just as I say that, Porsche gets a little bit squiggly, but Porsche slightly behind coming into Hamilton. Now the Aston's going to have the inside line going through Oggies. Is that going to be a fun? Whoa! That was very late on the brakes. Not a chance, Mr. Pavlovich. You're good, but your car's good, but not that good on the brakes. Yeah, that was fair play by Pinchbeck, and now he can breathe slightly because he knows the Porsche's not going to have an answer here. Oh, but we're going to have that till the checker flag. And there is Dave Hedges. He's going to be gaining on them whilst they're fighting like that. And there is a Salovich on the... that's not Kieran Vidago, beg your pardon. That's the other of the Golf cars. Oh, and yeah, and now we're going to see this again where Pavlovich just reels the Aston back in again with this with the different choice of line. Again, that Porsche is going to hug that inside line very, very hard. Aston goes out a little bit wide and then dives earlier for the apex, but the Porsche's just got the ability to get a good exit from that from the Murray's corner, but does not have the straight line speed to use it. But again, it's piling the pressure on. It's keeping that Aston looking in his mirrors rather than just looking at his apexes, and Dave Hedges is gaining quick. He's only 3.2 seconds behind now. So, Pavlovich has pushed it too hard. He's going to spin. Oh, no. All that hard work undone. And then he collects Dave Hedges. Oh, I suspect there was clinching going on in the number 88. New underpants of car 88, please. My God, that was close.
I need new underwear myself. That was unbelievable. We're going to see what happened to Rich Smith and Adam Salovich. I did just notice Rich Smith dropped out of the top 10. He's now P11. Is there a contact going through Richie's? Just turns in. Oops. A little bit of understeer from Adam Salovich and just catches Rich. There's nothing he could do there. Just gets caught, unfortunately, trying to go around the outside and hits himself into the wall. But goodness me, Dave Hedges take a bow because that was some fantastic avoiding action. Pavlovich just seemed to ever so slightly just roll back into the line of Dave and just got the tiniest little wheel on the grass as he went under braking into Wilson and somehow managed to keep making stick. Unbelievable stuff from the Simsport Racing Audi car there. Looks like Pavlovich has stayed in front of Yannick Muller just, but his tyres are going to be very, very warm indeed after sliding around through there. One thing I'm keeping an eye out for is you see Salovich has actually dropped back. He's let... Oh, that's Robbie Stapleford. I think he's let Rich Smith back through by the looks of it after that move. And then, like I say, just getting out of the way of Stapleford, who's lapping the field for what feels like the umpteenth time this evening, but I would imagine. One thing I am quite keen to see is well, funnily enough, is the two people on screen at the moment, whether Rasmus will try and make a move on Johnny Seville, because the way it stands, if you think of it from a grand scheme of things, Robbie Stapleford has pretty much, like I said before, he's got one hand on the championship already. With 2 rounds left after this, he's going to be almost untouchable unless he can't get any points in the final 2 rounds. So Jonathan Seville, he's going to be his closest challenger, but he's still going to be quite a way behind. So does he look with that in mind? They've got a gap of about 10 seconds back to Pinchbeck behind. Does Christensen just try and throw the cat amongst the pigeons and just have a bit of fun with it? That's not the fun I was talking about, Rasmus. Please keep that stuff. Goes into Oggies, drops back a little bit. So maybe he's not going to go for the move if he's going to do that because, he can't now because he's too far away. But yeah, interesting to see if that will be the case. Adam Salovich going for Richie's, trying to get on the inside. Goes into Wilson under braking. Does make the move this time. He manages to make it stick as well, importantly. And goodness me, that was very, very close. between the two of them. Fantastic racecraft and fantastic awareness from both of them to, on the second time of asking, make that move work.
New underpants for car 111, please. that was a little close. Yeah, like you say, for Dave Hedges, his avoidance was spot on. He would have been trying to brake, find the apex, and then suddenly a wild Porsche appears sideways right in front of him. He could have easily T-boned him, but had enough awareness to get around him on the grass whilst braking and not spin himself out. So well played for the Audi, but that, of course, takes all the pressure off of Chris Pinchbeck. You can just do his own thing now. I don't reckon Christensen is going to bother to try and make a move on Johnny Seville. Like you say, they gain nothing by doing it, and they compromise Johnny Seville's championship position as a result. So I don't think they'll bother. Unless, of course, Seville spins or makes his own mistake. Well, just in case you need a reminder on who the race leader has been all season, or near enough, is this man. And again, I know we comment on, or certainly I comment on Stapleford's domination of the season. But I genuinely mean no disrespect. It is just phenomenal. There's been very little challenge. There's been small bits of challenges in some races, and not always by the same people either. But just no one has been able to hold a candle. All the poles, all the fastest laps, and all the race wins have belonged to the number one McLaren. He wears the number one for a reason. Oh wow! So we've just been informed that he put that McLaren on the front row of the SRO event yesterday. So, good lord. Take a bow. Not right now. You've got a race to finish there, but
stop the car, take a bow, and carry on again, and you'll still win.
And you'll still win. Yes, that's such is the domination. And like I said, no disrespect meant at all. It really is just testament to the incredible performance that he's put on time and again with different types of circuits we've had. It's just untouchable, absolutely everywhere. Oh, Seville, don't you start doing lawn mowing. Well, there's our former second place man a long time ago, was Mr. Pavlovich.
Yeah, an opportunity missed for this man, unfortunately. It confuses me, the decision, but there's not much more we can do about it. It will be one. Maybe we'll hear from him at some point after the race. I don't think he'll be coming in. Well, he won't come in for an interview because if I was in his position, I'd probably be a little bit annoyed, to be completely honest. But it'd be interesting to hear some sort of debrief as to what's happened there, because it just seemed like a really strange decision in the long run. But he's still in sixth position. It's still some good points. It's still going to do him some benefit in the championship in the grand scheme of things. Not going to let him catch Robbie Stapleford, of course. He's now going towards another win. So was that
McLeod that we just saw in the distance?
Didn't quite see who it was, actually. Yes, it was.
It was.
Yeah, good spot. Change of position for P13 and P14 then. So yeah, Stuart Mcleod just dropping out of the way. He was getting closed in by Ash Copeland, in fairness to him. So maybe he's just been put under a bit too much pressure, and as a result just dropped out of 13th. Unlucky for him, but clearly not for Ash Copeland, who's managed to resume that position. It looks as though, Chris, it's pretty much set for the last 5 minutes or so. Simon Wilkinson.
Don't do that.
Goodness me.
I don't think that was as close as it looked from our perspective. But yeah, that's people getting tired and taking their eye off the ball. Yeah, McLeod was quite a long way off the road at Nelson backwards, so I suspect he's gone really horribly wrong at Brundle, and just ended up spinning before he's even got to Nelson. So that's what I suspect he's done. Hopefully we'll get a replay of that one, but that just goes to show that any mistake is still very costly, no matter when in the race it's done.
Absolutely, and like you say, their points all pretty much all the way up and down the field. So it is something they're going to have to be careful of. And fortunately for Stuart, he's got a decent enough gap back to Regan Mitchell behind, so it's not the end of the world. He's still sitting in 14th, but again, that's a position loss that he would have got some decent points for. So not ideal for him entirely, but this is what happens. Like you say, you get some gaps, you get a little bit not complacency, but you get a little bit of loss of focus potentially, and that's the kind of thing that can happen. Hopefully, we'll see exactly what happened, and you can prove yourself right, Chris, and you can find out that it was in fact he's just gone way too hot into Brundle, and like you say, just didn't even reach the apex of Nelson. Remains to be seen. Rasmus Christensen, what are you doing, sir? You're behind your teammate. You're going to go top of the Constructors' Championship by getting the positions you are. You probably shouldn't be looking at a move there. Don't get me wrong, it shows the tenacity of the number 28 car that he still wants to try and make a move. I like to see it, but that's just a little bit risky, is it not, with 3 minutes left in this race?
I'd say so, but does that not prove exactly what you were talking about as John Seville's gone too deep? Oh, now the no team orders going on here. Oh, steady, boys. Again, we know that Seville's car is a bit wounded, or we assume it's a bit wounded, or more so than Christensen is. You're not gaining anything by doing it. Seville's going to need to defend. They're just having some fun out there now. They know they've got 10 seconds to the good, but if they end up spinning off and Pinchbeck ends up on the podium, where were those eggs we were talking about earlier?
Talk about a Cinderella story if that happens.
Would that not be great? What have we got here?
This is Stuart Mcleod, isn't it?
Yes, so this is Ash Copeland we're looking at. So Ferrari's... Whoa, yeah, he's gone in way too hot. That's exactly how I described it. So he's gone in too hot. He's missed his braking point, and yeah, the rear wheels have just gone. You're having a laugh, sir. And round he went. He was nowhere near making that one for Nelson.
Interestingly, the focus looked to be on Ash Copeland. I was wondering whether it was going to be a case if we just gave him a little nudge.
Bang!
Especially considering how deep he went into Brundle. I thought you might well have just caught him on the way out, but yeah. Seem to lose it on his own. This is not a battle. I think this is not doing my heart rate any good, because I need to see these two come back in second and third. Rasmus Christensen doesn't fancy that though. I'm convinced of it. I just want to see if we can confirm exactly where Robbie Stapleford is. He's on. I believe it's going to be his penultimate lap. He's just coming into Agostini now. So he's got a while. Pinky Pinchy's still got a chance of a podium here, Chris. I'm convinced of it, because these two look like an accident waiting to happen. Rasmus Christensen looks like a man possessed trying to get that second place. And if he gets it, it looks like he might take Johnny Seville off with him. It's unbelievable.
Yes, that's the thing.
Teammates, boys.
One mistake is all it takes. I've said that in pretty much every commentary I've ever done in the last 5.5 years. And, that is going to be so costly for Pulse if that happens. And they've got a back marker right ahead of them. Oh, steady. No. Well, there's our race leader. He's coming through Nelson now, so he will be starting the final lap when he gets round again. You see the picture-in-picture of the Pulse having it's like a civil war going on for Pulse at the moment. Now the back marker could also upset the balance a little bit here. That's very close to Seville as he's gone a bit deep into Agostini. Just manages to shut the door. Please, back marker, realise there's two of them. Yes, well done. We've all seen it, haven't we? The back marker realises, lets one go and doesn't know there's a second one in close proximity and wallop. But thankfully, the Pulse boys live to survive another day, and they've got to do another lap like this. I wonder if Robbie Stapleford is actually just going to stay in first, as in first gear. Just go around, put the pit lane limiter on or something.
He would certainly have the time to do it, wouldn't he? He's
turn him right into a left-hander. That's he's now doing drifting around these corners.
I mean, he's nearly a lap ahead. He's going into Agostini. The two on your picture-in-picture, who are second and third, believe it or not, are going into. They've just gone through the bomb hole, haven't they? So he's not far off lapping the entire field, which is absolutely incredible. Time has hit zero, so this will be the final lap of this race. And it's the final lap for Robbie Stapleford in what has been an impervious drive so far, and will continue to be for the rest of this season. I'm really intrigued. I'm going to have to ask him what it was like from his perspective in this race, because he's not seen anyone. He's been completely on his own, a class above. And we've said it a few times. It's no disservice to the other guys that are driving in this championship. But he's just a different level. He is unbelievable. And he's coming through Nelson for the final time. Overtakes, I believe that's Kieran Vidago. Yes, it is just one of the back markers getting out of his way sensibly. Probably doesn't want to do another lap, to be honest, hitting down the P9 at the moment. And he's going to come through Corham, into Murray's for the 51st and final time. I've become a little bit accustomed to saying this now, boys and girls, believe it or not, but Robbie Stapleford comes through for the 51st and final time here at the Snetterton 300 circuit to win his 4th race in a row here in the Simsport Racing International GT3 Championship, season number 7. It's win number for Robbie Stapleford. He takes the Grand Slam again. It's the perfect race for him once more. It's the pole position, it's the fastest lap, and it's the race win. Now what remains to be seen is how will this podium shake out. Johnny Seville has got a half a second gap to his teammate Rasmus Christensen behind. That's Steve Parker, the back marker. A lovely bit of rhyming I didn't even expect to do there. In front of them as they go through Nelson for the final time. That's very close. That McLaren Marvin needs to get out of the way and go through the bomb hole. This is a little bit awkward for these two. Rasmus has got a perfect chance now as they come through Corham for the final time. Will he make a move? Will he send it into Murray's on the final corner? It looks like he might. No, he's elected to keep it behind. It was the battle that looked like it was going to simmer over. But
go on, side by side, boys. Over the line, come on. They didn't do it.
Unbelievable stuff. Johnny Seville, despite being the walking wounded for the majority of that race, comes through in second place, a mere minute and 2 seconds behind Robbie Stapleford at the end of the race. Rasmus Christensen rounds out your podium. Chris Pinchbeck comes from 16th to 4th. A fantastic drive from him, surely driver of the day, no doubt. Dave Hedges comes in half a second behind Pinchy. Pavlovich, a distant 6th place, and he will be wondering what could have been in that race. And it looks like Yannick Muller, Marcus Hagel, Kieran Vidago, and Rich Smith in the end round out your top 10. I feel like I'm going to say this after every race, Chris, but if we take everything away from Robbie Stapleford, that was a fantastic battle up and down for all sorts of positions. And like we said before, really just shows everyone who's watched this evening exactly the competitive nature that we have here in this GT3 Championship, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's going to be someone to fight of all skill levels, whether you're alien level of Stapleford or whether you're more towards the tail end of the field. It really should not put you off giving it a try. You may have lunatics like us shouting about your on-track antics, but it's that is exactly as you're saying, David. That is a great advert for this series. There is so much diversity in skill level, but generally the racing is so very well done. It's very fair. There's a lot of pressure being applied to various people, of course. That is racing, but you're not seeing kind of we're going to see a few spins here, of course, because of course that's what happens in the opening laps. But you don't see huge, unrealistic dive bombs lap after lap after lap, and that was where one of the McLarens was sideways in the opening lap. You don't see huge accidents race after race after race. You don't have that here, and that's it's great to see. So if you're interested in GT3 racing on ACC, we really would implore you to give this league a try.
Absolutely, and I think one thing to mention on that point, you mentioned about obviously there's some very, very, very quick people in this championship, and the best thing about those people is they are not shy to help people improve as well. I'm sure we speak for everyone in the fact of there's plenty of people on this championship who would quite happily say they've gained pace just by being in it with other people and just getting some help off of them. And now what we'll do is we'll speak to some of those very quick people, because we've managed to drag our podium sitters into the comms box for a little chat with us after the race. Unsurprisingly, I'm going to go to our P1 man. It's 4 from 4. It's 4 perfect races. It's one hand on the championship trophy for the second season in a row. Robbie, how did you manage to do that? That was incredible. Talk us through it from your perspective, because you were untouchable that entire race.
I have no idea why I was so quick, to be honest. I don't know what else to say.
So we obviously knew that it was going to be a bit closer this evening, because like you said, I think we spoke to you about it a couple of weeks ago after the race at Misano. We all know the McLaren is not good. We all thought it wasn't going to be particularly quick in comparison to some of the cars around here. We saw that in qualifying. Obviously, Zlatko Pavlovich nearly pipping into that pole position, nearly ruining your 4th perfect race in a row. But you just seemed to eke out the gap. I mean, was there anything you were worried about during that race? Because it just seemed like you just turned every single lap like you were hot lapping for the entire 90 minutes. It looked incredible.
I thought the Porsche was going to stick with me for a bit longer, but I pretty much just, as soon as the first lap went, pretty much just dropped everybody and then started to gradually make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then after the pit stops, I found a bit more speed and then casually just made it bigger and bigger. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there's not really much else to say, is there? Really, like I say, you've won 4 out of 4. You're on 120 odd points, I think it is. You've got arguably, I think it's about a 60-point lead to everyone else at the moment. So, like I say, with 2 rounds to go, you've arguably got one hand on the trophy. How do you, with that in mind, how do you kind of get yourself geared up for these final 2 races of the season? Are you going to do anything differently? Are you going to continue to do the practice you've done, or are you going to treat them as they come and dare I say, have a little bit of fun with it towards the last couple?
Exactly the same. I'd quite like Donington, so I've been there before, so that one's going to be alright. And then hopefully I've got a big enough gap to kind of relax for Suzuka and just have some fun, maybe even drop down the field and start having some fights.
I think I could speak for everyone who would say we'd absolutely love to see that. So yeah, if you can get the championship wrapped up next round at Donington, I know how quick you are because I've seen you do it before in the in other championships. So I know you've got some pace there. Unsurprisingly, potentially you might be amazed to hear. But yeah, it'd be lovely to see how you get on there. Look, I suppose the only thing else I can say is, look, congratulations again. You've absolutely smashed it out of the water, and I suppose I'll see you back here in a couple of weeks for more of the same at Donington Park. Congratulations.
Yes, see ya.
So we'll move over to P2 now. I believe I'm talking to someone who is a little bit walking wounded after that one. Johnny, congratulations on P2. It's another fantastic result for yourself. How difficult was it? Because from what I understand, I heard from Miles midway through the broadcast, you were driving with a bit of damage. Is that right?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to apologise to Ash. On lap 1 for turn 3, I just completely missed my braking zone and tapped the back of him. And then I had about 8 seconds of damage, which I did carry through to the whole race because I was worried about the Porsche Povolitis. Yeah, I was worried in the pit stops that he might be able to jump me if I repair that damage, so I didn't. But I don't know what he was doing going on for so long. But I probably could have repaired the damage and I would have been still on the podium. So yeah, massive understeer, like the final right-hander. It was horrible to drive that car through there for an hour and a half with less front downforce. It was pretty difficult.
I mean, like, so yeah, you still did a fantastic job of just seeing on the replays where you see that ascend, or it was one of the attempted sends from Pavlovich, like you say, the Porsche was coming around. But to be honest, I think Chris, I'll speak on behalf of Chris and myself, we were both in the same boat as you were, going, what's he doing? He seems to have gone a little bit too long, because like you say, I think even if he'd have covered off yourself and Rasmus, which come to a second in the pit stop phase, like you say, you probably would have been fighting for 3rd and 4th, but yeah, it just seemed to come out fine. And one thing I will say is, I don't know if you guys were chatting to each other part of the way through, but were you ever worried that you're going to lose P2 to your teammate at the end there?
We are in Discord together, and he's just like trying to wind me up a bit, trying to distract me. He's saying all sorts. Oh, you went a bit wide there, stuff like that. Just trying to get in my head and distract me. Yeah, but I know. Yeah, Rasmus is a good teammate. He'd never go anything for. He'd only make a move if he knew it would definitely stick. He's not going to risk it for the team. So he's very good in that. But yeah, he was trying to torment me a bit to try and force me into a mistake in Discord.
Good stuff. And speaking of the team, very good result for both of you, P2 and P3. See Robbie taking the win for Zancho, but from what our calculations say, I've had my little abacus out, that does put you guys, assuming the results stay as they are, which I would expect they should do to an extent, it gives you guys a decent lead going into the last couple of rounds in the Constructors' Championship. Is that a key focus for you guys now? Just try and focus, get results, and just try and bring that one home?
Well, I see, that kind of has to be now. Robbie's ran away with the the drivers. So that's the only championship up for grabs, really. So yeah, we've got to. Yeah, that's great if we can achieve that, because yeah, I can't see us winning the drivers' standings. So that's the next best thing.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Johnny. Like I say, another fantastic result. Starting to get that Ferrari, it seems seemingly under your grasp, because I know you were struggling with it at the start of the season, and we'll look forward to seeing you again, and hopefully a bit more of the same at Donington in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you.
And then finally, our P3 man, like I say, nearly made it P2 at a point. Rasmus, fantastic race from yourself again. You were, I mean, it looked to an extent like you guys were almost toying with the Porsche in that first stint. And then, the first thing is, what happened in the pit stop? Because, of course, you got past Johnny when Pavlovich made it through into P2, but your pit stop seemed a little bit slow. Was that just missing the marks in the pit box at that point, or was there anything else that paid a tribute to that?
Nah, I just missed the braking and went. I actually broke too early, so yeah, it's just I messed it up pretty much, and that's why I lost.
Well, look, to be fair, I think I'll speak for everyone in saying again, we thoroughly enjoyed you making us feel very on edge in the last few laps. Were you ever, because you did look like you were going to make a move, was there ever a point that, like, I mean, we obviously, Johnny kind of hit the nail on the head, it looked like you weren't ever going to make the move unless it was definitely on. Were you confident at points that you were going to get that P2 in the end, or were you just trying to, like I say, just wind him up a little bit and keep him on his toes?
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking to him, pointing out his mistakes and stuff, but I don't know, I was never really going for a move, to be honest, because I was scared to take us both out, because I want to get that P1 in the teams, because yeah, Robbie has pretty much just gone away with that P1 title in drivers, so it's just trying to keep him on pressure and maybe get him to make a mistake so I could get in front of him, but not today.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we talked about Snetterton enough, and I know I speak for a few people on the grid saying they'll be quite happy to be moving on to the last couple of rounds. Speaking of Donington in a couple of weeks, is that a personal favourite of yours? That one you're looking forward to?
I've not really driven it that much, but from like the times I have driven it has been really fun, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good stuff. Well, look, Rasmus, congratulations on the podium again. It's good to see you back on the top three in this season, and I'll let you disappear so you can start practicing for Donington in a couple of weeks' time. By the sounds of it, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, lovely to hear from our top three there. Of course, like I say, Robbie Stapleford, a little bit in a league of his own, but battling up and down the field regardless of that. Chris, we've talked about this enough times, and we're heading off to the last couple of rounds in a couple of weeks, but even though that wasn't necessarily a track where we're going to see an enormous amount of overtaking, it really was one of those for the strategic and kind of racecraft side of things. We were still treated to a fantastic race tonight, weren't we?
Absolutely. More of the same in Donington as well. That's one very long straight with a hell of a lot of medium speed twistiness involved. Really looking forward to Donington. Every single week, aren't we? We're treated to some incredible racing from our field. I'm very much looking forward to seeing if Mr. Stapleford keeps to his word and maybe starts further down the field at Suzuka. That should be fabulous.
That will be indeed. I'd certainly love to see that. But in the meantime, we have got some more racing coming for you on the Simsport Racing International channel over the next couple of weeks. Next Sunday, we head back to more VTCC action in the touring cars. We're off to Silverstone National for that one. That's certainly one that we'll be looking forward to, and I'm sure, Chris, you'll be looking forward to jumping back into the booth for that one. And in the meantime, on Wednesday evening this week, we have got a social event which anyone is welcome to join. So again, as we mentioned a few times already on this broadcast this evening, if you do want to join, then there is a Discord link in the chat so far. If you want to head on to that, jump in. And we've got a couple of races in the Renault Clio Cup format at Bannock Bray on Wednesday evening. That starts at I think it said 9:30 there. I'm terrible at reading 24-hour time. At 7:30 on Wednesday. That'll be streamed live on the Simsport Racing channels as well. And Chris, again, that's going to be a really good one, isn't it? Bannock Bray is always one of those tracks that really kind of it lends itself to some pretty interesting stuff.
I love Bannock Bray. I make no apologies for that. I always been a big fan of it since it was introduced originally into Project Cars 2. It's a fictional track, but I think it's brilliant. It's been ported across to AC. That's going to be fabulous. I've commentated a couple of times on it with touring cars. It's really narrow, very twisty, but because it's fictional, it's one of these tracks that isn't necessarily kind of embedded in your DNA. It's not a Snetterton, it's not a Suzuka, it's not a Monza, it's not ones that everybody knows from every single walk of racing life in every single sim. So it throws up so many challenges. I personally absolutely love it. So that one's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So for tonight anyway, we'll leave you with this. Robbie Stapleford, of course, one hand on the championship, potentially two come the end of a couple of weeks' time at Donington. But we have been treated to some fantastic action as always. I'd like to thank on behalf of myself, David Wressell, and Chris Buxton, and Steve Proudly, our broadcast director, for bringing you the fantastic cameras and all the replays that we've been treated to of the action this evening. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. We'll see you guys. I won't be there, but we'll see a lot of you hopefully again on Wednesday when we come back for the Clear Cup at Bannock Bray, and then we're back in the VTCC at Silverstone next week. But from GT3 Action, it's goodbye for this evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Donington Park. Thank you very much for watching as always, and we'll see you guys again very, very soon. Have a lovely evening. Take care. Bye-bye.